Chapter 1531. The sudden disappearance of the door of adversity caused Yi Xian and the others to be slightly stunned. Wasn't this fellow very arrogant just a moment ago? Why did he suddenly run away? Yi Xian turned to look in the direction of the desolate mountain range. Could it be because of the swordsman? He knew that the door of adversity was afraid of the swordsman. Right at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly surged from the horizon. Seeing this scene, Wan Jun's expression instantly changed. She directly pulled on Yi Xian's hand. "Let's go." As she spoke, she was about to leave with Yi Xian, but at this moment, the sage and Heavenly Mother blocked their way. The sage looked at Yi Xian and Wan Jun. "You want to leave now?" "It's too late." As soon as the sage's voice fell, the space above their heads suddenly tore open. In the next moment, a middle-aged man walked out. As this middle-aged man walked out, the entire world seemed to ripple like water. Wan Jun glared at the middle-aged man who walked out, her eyes filled with undisguised killing intent. The Tian family's heavenly master, Tian Lin. One of the strongest powerhouses in the Nether River Star Field. Tian Lin's gaze directly fell on Yi Xian. "The universal law is on you." Obviously, he was here for the universal law. Yi Xian shook his head. "Not at all." Tian Lin chuckled. "Actually, I'm very curious about your origin. Because I've already investigated before coming here, there's no one like you in the entire Nether River Star Field. Logically speaking, a monstrous genius like you should be famous throughout the world. However, it's like you appeared out of thin air. As for your origin, I couldn't find anything at all. If I'm not wrong, you should be from somewhere else." Yi Xian smiled. "If I said I came from the disaster realm, would you believe me?" Tian Lin looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "You want to use the disaster realm to suppress me?" Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "Let's not talk nonsense. If you're here for the universal law, then I can tell you that the universal law isn't on me." Tian Lin smiled. "Do you think I'll believe you?" Yi Xian waved the sword in his hand. "I am a swordsman. A swordsman disdains lying." Tian Lin hadn't even spoken when the Heavenly Mother suddenly spoke coldly. "Bullshit. You disdain to lie. You're the most shameless swordsman I've ever seen. I really don't understand how a showy person like you could have such a high level of cultivation in swordsmanship." Yi Xian was speechless. In the sky, Tian Lin smiled and said, "My Tian family's heavenly teacher said that you are related to the future of my Tian family. I understand what she means. She wants my Tian family to rope you in, but I don't believe her. I feel that my Tian family's fate is in our own hands." As he spoke, he placed his right hand behind his back and said with a smile, "I know your identity isn't simple. Come, I'll give you a chance to call for help. Call for help." Inside the World Prison Pagoda, the door of misfortune suddenly raised its head, its expression cold. "Idiot. Call for help." These people were too stupid. As soon as they saw Yi Xian, they would directly beat him up. They even gave him a chance to call for help. Call your mother. Let this guy call for help? If he called for help, what was the point of fighting? The door of misfortune was so angry that its chest hurt. Both of its chests hurt. She had no choice. Because she was currently being suppressed, she couldn't use the karma disaster technique. Otherwise, she wouldn't have found people from the Tian family to target Yi Xian. Because they were too stupid. These people were here to train Yi Xian. Don't be afraid of a strong opponent, only afraid of a pig-like teammate. Outside the World Prison Pagoda, Yi Xian smiled and said, "My big brother usually doesn't make a move." Tian Lin smiled and said, "Big brother?" Yi Xian nodded and said, "He usually doesn't make a move." Tian Lin smiled and said calmly, "In that case, your big brother is very powerful?" Yi Xian said seriously, "Of course he's very powerful." Tian Lin revealed a playful smile and said, "How powerful is he?" Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "Invincible." In his heart, swordsman, Qing, and that green-clothed man were all invincible. Invincible? Tianlin was stunned, and then he laughed and said, "You're saying that your big brother is invincible?" Yi Xian nodded. Tianlin shook his head and smiled. "Then can you call your big brother over? I want to see what it means to be invincible." Yi Xian was about to speak when a furious voice suddenly resounded, "Who's calling your mother?" As soon as the voice resounded, a woman suddenly appeared not too far away from Yi Xian. It was the door of misfortune. Yi Xian was slightly stunned. Why has this woman appeared again? Tianlin frowned slightly when she saw the door of misfortune. "Who are you?" The door of misfortune glanced coldly at Tianlin and said, "Call someone, call someone. I'll call you ancestor." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly smashed her fist forward. A bolt of mysterious blood lightning flashed through the air. Tianlin's expression changed drastically when he witnessed this scene, and he swiftly raised his arms to block it. Bang! Tianlin's figure was blasted flying, and he flew over 3 kilometers away. As soon as he stopped moving, his body instantly exploded into pieces. The others were slightly stunned when they witnessed this scene. Even Yi Xian was slightly stunned. Doesn't she want me dead? What was she trying to do? At this moment, Tianlin's mind had gone blank. My body was blasted apart with a single punch? Right at this moment, the door of misfortune suddenly clenched through the air and grabbed Tianlin's throat. She gazed coldly at Tianlin and said, "I don't understand. Do you think you're very strong? Call someone? Are you an idiot? If you want to kill him, then just do it." "Who do you want him to call?" "I'll call your mother." As she spoke, she suddenly exerted force. Bang! Tianlin's soul exploded apart. However, in the next moment, the space around him trembled, and then a soul suddenly condensed into form. It was Tianlin. Yi Xian was slightly shocked when he witnessed this scene. "You can do that?" Meanwhile, Wan Jun said, "This is the soul condensation technique, the supreme secret technique of my Tian family. It can condense a shattered soul 3 times in a day." Yi Xian nodded, "Not bad." In the distance, the door of misfortune gazed at Tianlin. Tianlin's expression was extremely solemn. "You're his big brother?" Yi Xian, the door of misfortune flew into a rage when she heard this. "I'm your ancestor." As she spoke, she was about to attack when Tianlin suddenly said hurriedly, "Your Excellency, please wait. My Tian family surrenders." Surrenders. Yi Xian, the sage and heavenly mother were slightly stunned as well. Surrenders just like that? Tianlin's expression was extremely unsightly. As soon as they exchanged blows just now, he knew that he wasn't a match for this woman. Not at all. He could only choose to surrender. Tianlin looked at the door of misfortune and cupped his fists. "Your Excellency, this is all a misunderstanding. My Tian family didn't know that this young Master Yi is one of your people. If my Tian family had known that he was one of your people, even if my Tian family had 100 guts, I wouldn't have targeted him." Yi Xian's expression became somewhat strange. The door of misfortune looked at Tianlin and didn't speak. However, its expression became increasingly gloomy. Seeing this, Tianlin hesitated for a moment before bowing respectfully to Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, everything that happened before was a misunderstanding. I represent the Tian family to apologize to young Master Yi." Yi Xian hurriedly said, "It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. I forgive all of you." Tianlin was slightly taken aback. So easy to talk to? At this moment, Yi Xian spoke again. "It's all a misunderstanding, a huge misunderstanding. I'm willing to be on good terms with the Tian family. From now on, I'll share life and death with the Tian family." Tianlin was stunned, and then he smiled. "I didn't expect you to be so understanding and reasonable. I also guarantee you that from now on, my Tian family will share life and death with you. Whoever makes an enemy of you will be making an enemy of my Tian family. My Tian family will be the first to not let them off." As he spoke, he glanced at the door of misfortune, but he noticed that the woman's expression was even gloomier than before. What's going on? Could it be that this big shot isn't satisfied? Tianlin was puzzled. At this moment, the Holy Mother behind Tianlin was about to speak, but Yi Xian beat her to it. Sect leader Tianlin, are my enemies the Tian family's enemies? Tianlin smiled, of course. Yi Xian said in a serious tone, I'm very touched. Really? Tianlin felt that something wasn't right. He suddenly turned his head, and at this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck him. Boom! Tianlin's soul directly exploded, but a moment later, his soul condensed once more. Soul consolidation technique. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian was somewhat shocked. He was a little tempted by this soul consolidation technique. This thing was equivalent to having 3 more lives at a critical moment. At this moment, Wan Jun, who was beside Yi Xian, suddenly said, You like this soul consolidation technique? Yi Xian nodded vigorously. Wan Jun said, I'll teach you when the time comes. Yi Xian blinked. Okay. Wan Jun shook her head, You don't have to be so polite. Yi Xian smiled, We're on the same side. There's no need to be polite. We're on the same side. Wan Jun's expression changed subtly. In the distance, Tianlin looked at the door of misfortune, a little confused. Senior, what do you mean? The door of misfortune coldly stared at Tianlin. Take a guess. Tianlin glanced at Yi Xian, Little friend, hasn't our misunderstanding been resolved? Yi Xian nodded, yes. Tianlin was a little confused, then this senior, Yi Xian looked at the door of misfortune in the distance, a little displeased, Little misfortune, how can you be like this? They've already admitted their mistake. How can you be so unforgiving? You've really gone too far. The door of misfortune turned to look at Yi Xian, angrily saying, Shut up. Yi Xian blinked, Little misfortune, you can't be like this. You should win people over with virtue, At this moment, 2 blood-colored lightning bolts suddenly appeared on the hands of the door of misfortune. Seeing this, Yi Xian hurriedly shut his mouth. Although the door of misfortune was suppressed by sword qi, even if it was suppressed, this thing was still a little too ridiculously strong. The door of misfortune coldly looked at Yi Xian, then turned to look at Tianlin, You idiot. As she spoke, she was about to attack, but at this time, Tianlin suddenly pointed angrily at the door of disaster. You've gone too far. As the sound of his voice faded, he waved his right hand. The sky suddenly split open, and then he took out a token. Welcome, ancestor. Boom. The token soared into the sky. Summoning the ancestor. In the distance, Yi Xian blinked his eyes. This was a little too much. Chapter 1532. Ancestor Summoning. Yi Xian was a little surprised. Of course, he was more curious. Would the Tian family's ancestor be able to destroy the door of disaster? Yi Xian glanced at the door of disaster. The door of disaster stood there with a calm expression. There was no fluctuation in its eyes. Seeing this, Yi Xian's expression darkened. The Tian family's ancestor might not be able to kill this woman. He looked at Tianlin again. Tianlin's expression was extremely ferocious. Anger. He, the dignified head of the Tian family, had already lowered his voice and compromised. Yet this woman was still unwilling to let him go. She was too much. Even a clay figurine had some anger. In the sky, the tokens suddenly turned into nothingness. At the same time, a white-haired old man appeared in the sky. With the appearance of this white-haired old man, an invisible pressure suddenly spread between heaven and earth. In an instant, the entire world trembled as if it could not withstand this old man. Seeing this, Yi Xian's expression gradually became solemn. This old man looked quite fierce. Wan Jun suddenly said softly, Tian Xian. The strongest ancestor in the history of the Tian family. He was also the one who brought the Tian family to its peak. Even the Tian family does not know how strong he is. Yi Xian looked at the door of disaster in the distance. The door of disaster's expression was still very calm. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian suddenly grabbed Wang Jun's hand. Let's go. With that, he was about to leave with Wang Jun. He knew that other than the three swords, no one could destroy the door of disaster. Not even Sister Nian and Tu. This woman was a bit heaven-defying. If she had not been suppressed by swordsman's sword energy, she would probably be even more abnormal. It was better to escape first. At this moment, the old man in the sky suddenly said, "Little friend, please wait." Yi Xian stopped and turned to look at Tian Xian in the sky. "Senior, what's the matter?" Tian Xian glanced at the door of adversity, then looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, "Little friend, this happened because of you. Isn't it a little unkind for you to leave like this?" Yi Xian blinked. "Senior, it has nothing to do with me." Tian Xian shook his head and smiled, "Little friend, this old man already knows the ins and outs of the matter. I don't have any other meaning. My Tian family facing such a calamity is all because of the stupidity of our Tian family's head." As he spoke, he turned to look at the door of disaster and bowed slightly. "Miss, the Tian family has never shown any disrespect to the disaster realm. I hope you will be magnanimous." Tian Lin's expression instantly became extremely unsightly when he saw Tian Gan admit defeat. He was not stupid. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. This woman in front of him isn't someone the Tian family can afford to provoke. At this moment, the Heavenly Mother suddenly walked to Tian Lin's side and said a few words in a low voice. A moment later, Tian Lin's pupils suddenly shrank. He raised his head and glared angrily at Yi Xian in the distance. "She's not your brother at all." Yi Xian said with a straight face, "I never said that she's my brother." Tian Lin stared at Yi Xian before he died. "You tricked me." Yi Xian was somewhat innocent. "You're the one who said that you want to live and die with me. I didn't force you. You even said that my enemy is your enemy. To be honest, I'm very touched, really." Tian Lin was so angry that his liver almost exploded. What kind of words were these? The Heavenly Mother's expression was incomparably gloomy. It wasn't that she didn't want to tell Tian Lin earlier, but she was also dumbfounded by the door of adversity's operation. This woman had instigated them to kill Yi Xian in the beginning, but now, this woman was suddenly helping Yi Xian. What kind of operation was this? Actually, forget about the Heavenly Mother, even Yi Xian was a little confused at the beginning. This was because he didn't expect the door of adversity to suddenly attack Tian Lin. After thinking about it, he could only think of one possibility, and that was that this woman wasn't normal. At this moment, Tian Lin suddenly glared at Yi Xian. "Since she's not your brother, then who is your brother?" "You." In the distance, the door of adversity suddenly slapped out. Boom! Tian Lin was directly struck by a blood lightning, and his soul instantly shattered. However, very quickly, Tian Lin's soul condensed once again. However, at this moment, his soul was incomparably illusory, as if it was transparent. This was the last time it condensed his soul. Tian Lin was slightly stunned by the attack. The door of adversity stared at Tian Lin with an incomparably cold expression. "Brother, brother. Will you die if you don't mention him?" Yi Xian, Tian Lin's expression was incomparably ferocious. "Woman, what is the meaning of this? My Tian family targeted him, and you came to attack us. When we didn't target him, you attacked us. Is there something wrong with your brain? You." At this moment, the heaven's wrath suddenly sighed. The next moment, he waved his right hand. Boom! Tian Lin was directly suppressed by a powerful force. Tian Lin raised his head and looked at Tian Xian. "I refuse to accept this." Tian Xian shook his head. "Silly child, can't you see the situation clearly?" As he said that, he glanced at Yi Xian in the distance. This lady and this little friend are enemies, but this little friend is still alive. Moreover, he's living very arrogantly. Do you understand? Hearing this, Tianlin's entire body froze. He naturally understood what Tianxian meant. At this moment, he finally regained his senses. That's right. This woman and this young man were enemies, but this young man was still alive. What did this mean? This meant that this young man wasn't simple either. The Tian family couldn't afford to offend this woman, and similarly, they couldn't afford to offend this young man. This was a fight between immortals, and mortals suffered. Thinking of this, Tianlin slowly closed his eyes. In fact, the Tian family shouldn't have gotten involved in the first place. It was all because of the universal law. This time, he didn't come to save the emperor, but for the universal law. Everyone in the world knew that there was a universal law here. Now that this place had returned to normal, it was obvious that the universal law had been obtained by someone. How greedy. Tianlin sighed softly. He glanced at the door of disaster below. At this moment, he understood what it meant by there would always be someone better than you out there. The Tian family had been living too comfortably these past few years. In the entire Nether River Star field, who dared to go against the Tian family? Over time, the Tian family had become arrogant. Even if it was him, he had become incomparably arrogant. He felt that there was no one in this starry sky that the Tian family couldn't destroy. Arrogant. Arrogant. Thinking of this, Tianlin deeply bowed towards the door of disaster. I've troubled you previously. Please be magnanimous and spare this one's life. Cower? It wasn't shameful to cower in front of such an expert. The door of disaster looked at Tianlin. If apologies were useful, why would I still practice martial arts? As her voice fell, she waved her right hand. Boom! Tianlin's soul was directly erased by a blood lightning. Completely erased. This time, his soul was truly destroyed. At the side, Yi Xian glanced at the door of disaster. This woman had character. Tianxian looked at the door of disaster below. I wonder if you're satisfied? The door of disaster looked at Tianxian. Why? Are you not satisfied with what you said? Tianxian smiled. I don't dare to be dissatisfied. The door of disaster slowly walked towards Tianxian. Do you think you're a big shot? Tianxian frowned slightly. What was wrong with this woman? She was so angry. Qi La. At this moment, more than 10 blood lightning bolts suddenly appeared around the door of disaster. The expressions of everyone in the surroundings changed when these bolts of blood-red divine lightning appeared. Even Yi Xian's expression became extremely solemn. Back then, his god realm physical body was as fragile as paper in front of this divine lightning. Even Nian Nian could only barely withstand the divine lightning. In the sky, Tianxian said solemnly, Your Excellency, my Tian family is convinced. The door of adversity stopped in its tracks. She threw a cold look at Tianxian and then at Yi Xian. She stared at Yi Xian without hiding the murderous intent in her eyes. This killing intent sent chills down one's spine. Yi Xian smiled. I'm convinced too. Don't hit me. Tianxian was speechless. The door of disaster suddenly walked towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian's eyelids twitched. This woman wouldn't go crazy, right? He knew that this woman had been infuriated recently. The door of disaster walked in front of Yi Xian. She was very close to Yi Xian. 2 blood lightning bolts circled around her arms. Behind Yi Xian, La Jun suddenly walked to Yi Xian's side. She looked at the door of disaster and slowly clenched her right hand. The door of disaster looked at Yi Xian. After a long time, she smiled and said, I have a suggestion. Do you want to hear it? Yi Xian was a little curious. What suggestion? The door of disaster said seriously, Do you want to reach the mortal sword realm? Yi Xian nodded. The door of disaster said seriously, It's useless for you to train like this. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Why is that? The door of disaster said, Because you have Big Brother behind you. Think about it. If you let your Big Brother follow you all the time, under such circumstances, you will feel that you are not afraid of anything because he will support you. Under such circumstances, you will not be able to truly grow. Yi Xian thought for a while and then said, "You do have a point." The door of disaster smiled. Yes. If you really want to reach the mortal sword realm and grow, you cannot have a backer. A backer will be a burden to you. So, you should let your Big Brother leave. That way, you will be able to grow. Yi Xian hesitated and said, "If my Big Brother leaves, will you beat me to death?" The door of disaster blinked. "Don't you want to train?" Yi Xian was furious. Train? Train your grandma. How many levels higher are you than me? Are there 5? You are bullying the weak and won't let me call for help. Do you think I am stupid? The door of disaster stared at Yi Xian. Yi Xian said angrily, "What are you looking at?" As he said that, he slapped his face. "Come, hit me. Kill me if you can." The door of disaster clenched its fists. Lightning surged around it and a formless pressure caused the world to tremble. Yi Xian suddenly clapped his hands and twisted his butt. Beaming, he said, "My elder brother is awesome. My younger sister is awesome. I want to rely on my elder brother. I want to rely on my younger sister. Come and hit me. Come and hit me. I really want to be hit. You. Ah." The door of disaster suddenly roared angrily. It suddenly slapped out. It was not aimed at Yi Xian but at the distant sky. Boom! Before Tian Xian could react, he was struck by a bolt of blood lightning. In the sky, the soul of heavenly wrath that was about to disappear was confused. He is shameless. What does that have to do with me, everyone? P.S. Everyone can join the group. 1067154732. Welcome to complain, chat, and act cool. Group leader's photo. Chapter 1533. The sky was filled with flashes of blood-red lightning, and its might was oppressive. The door of disaster stared at Yi Xian with lightning flashing in its eyes. Killing intent. An invisible killing intent filled the surroundings, and the target of this killing intent was Yi Xian. Beside Yi Xian, Wan Jun's expression was extremely solemn. She had never sensed such a powerful killing intent before. She was puzzled. The door of disaster clearly wanted to kill Yi Xian, but it did not make a move. Why was that? From the looks of it, even if Yi Xian's sword had reached mortal mode, he was still no match for the door of disaster. At that moment, she thought of Yi Xian's big brother. How strong was that big brother? To think that this woman was so afraid of him. Wan Jun's heart was filled with curiosity. At that moment, the door of disaster suddenly pointed at Yi Xian. "Just you wait, you be *tch. After saying that, it returned to the prison pagoda. As the door of disaster disappeared, the blood-red lightning instantly disappeared without a trace. In the end, she did not choose to make a move. To be more precise, she did not dare to. The swordsman had let Yi Xian out to train, but that did not mean that he would really let Yi Xian be killed. In particular, if she made a move, the swordsman would definitely make a move. This was because her strength was much higher than Yi Xian's. The swordsman would not allow her to make a move against Yi Xian. After the door of disaster disappeared, the smile on Yi Xian's face also disappeared. He had purposely provoked the door of disaster, but he knew very well that his current strength was still insufficient to contend against the door of disaster. Most importantly, the white-armored woman had said that the door of disaster was not the disaster law. The disaster law was even stronger than the door of disaster. Moreover, from the white-armored woman's words, it seemed that he had not only defied the disaster law, but also the karma law, the time law, the life law. In other words, he had offended at least half of the 9 universal laws. Thinking of this, Yi Xian shook his head and sighed. "It's too difficult for me." Meanwhile, the space in the distance suddenly split open, and then a woman walked out of it. The woman wore a long white dress and held an ancient book in her hand. When they saw this woman, the sage and the Heavenly Mother hurriedly bowed slightly. Heavenly Teacher. Heavenly Master. His position in the Tian family is only second to the clan head. Now that Tian Master had fallen, this Tian family naturally belongs to Master Tianshi. The Celestial Master nodded. She then looked at Wan Jun in the distance with a complicated expression. It's been hard on you all these years. Hua Jun fell silent. She did not hate the Celestial Master. If not for the Celestial Master's protection, she would not have survived at all. The Celestial Master opened her palm and a black seal suddenly flew into her hand from afar. With a light tap of her fingers, the black seal floated in front of Lan Jun. From this moment on, you are the patriarch of my Tian family. The Heavenly Mother's expression instantly changed when she heard this. One had to know that Wan Jun hated the Tian family very much. Once she became the family head, if there was a purge, the Heavenly Teacher glanced at the sage and the Heavenly Mother. The Tian family will be fine. The sage hesitated for a moment and said, Heavenly Teacher, should we inform the elders about this? The sage was expressionless. They have already agreed. The sage did not say anything else. The Celestial Master and the elders had agreed. This matter was basically set in stone. The Celestial Master walked in front of Wan Jun. Wan Jun did not take the black seal. The Celestial Master looked at Wan Jun. If you want to clear father's grievances, you must become the patriarch. Wan Jun shook her head. What's the use of clearing the grievances? They are already dead. The Celestial Master shook her head. You cannot think like this. Now, you can change the Tian family. Wan Jun looked at the Celestial Master. The Celestial Master said softly. All these years, the Tian family's path has become narrower and narrower. It needs reform. Wan Jun looked at the Celestial Master. Why not become the Tian family lord? The Celestial Master shook her head. I am not suitable. But suitable. Wan Jun frowned. Why? The Celestial Master looked at Wan Jun, because that position has always been yours. Wan Jun's hands slowly clenched. It had always been hers. In the past, her father was the Tian family lord and she was the Tian family's young master. But then something happened. The position of the Tian family lord was taken by Tian Lin. The Celestial Master said again. We should take back what originally belonged to father. After a moment of silence, Wan Jun suddenly turned to look at Yi Xian. What do you think? Yi Xian was slightly stunned. He did not expect Wan Jun to suddenly ask him this question. Yi Xian thought for a moment. This is an internal matter of the Tian family. Wan Jun looked at Yi Xian. I want to hear your opinion. Yi Xian pondered for a moment. My opinion is not suitable. Wan Jun was stunned. Then she smiled. Why? Yi Xian glanced at the Celestial Master. When father was in trouble, how did the Tian family treat our family? To be honest, I don't think such a cold-blooded family is worth staying. Moreover, this lady's motive for making her the patriarch is not that simple. As he spoke, Yi Xian kept staring at the Celestial Master. The Celestial Master looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, the Tian family is her home. Yi Xian smiled. It's her home? Then why did you watch her family get destroyed? I know it's for the sake of Daquan. For a family like yours, Daquan is equivalent to sacrificing anyone. Am I right? The Celestial Master was silent. Yi Xian continued. If I were Miss Wan Jun, would destroy the Tian family. The Celestial Master frowned. Young Master Yi, Yi Xian smiled. But I can see that Miss Wan Jun doesn't have that much hatred for the Tian family anymore. That's because the culprit is dead. Having said that, he looked at Wan Jun. Wan Jun, as a friend, my advice is not to go back. Of course, it's still up to you. I respect and support your decision. Wan Jun smiled sweetly. Then I won't go back. Yi Xian nodded. All right. What do you plan to do next? After a moment of silence, Wan Jun said, Can I follow? Yi Xian was stunned. Wan Jun smiled. I'm just joking. I'm going to Sword Abyss because my father died there. I want to see that place. Sword Abyss. Yi Xian subconsciously asked, Do you need me to go with you? Wan Jun immediately said, Yes. Yi Xian was speechless. Wan Jun smiled. From your expression, you don't seem too willing. Yi Xian shook his head. It's not that I don't want to, but my intuition tells me that something bad might happen if I go with you. Wan Jun asked, The cause of calamity? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Wan Jun smiled. I'm not afraid. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Wan Jun, do you know? If it's not my big brother, anyone who follows me will suffer a calamity. He naturally would not forget that terrifying calamity. Even Nian Nian and Tu seemed so powerless in the face of that calamity. Wan Jun faced Yi Xian. I've said it. After saving me, we'll bear any karma together. Yi Xian hesitated and was about to speak when Wan Jun suddenly said, I'm not afraid, so what's there to be afraid of? Or do you think I'm pestering you? Yi Xian hurriedly shook his head. Of course not. Wan Jun said, Then let's go to Sword Abyss. Saying that, she pulled Yi Xian and turned to leave. After Yi Xian and Wan Jun left, the Heavenly Master suddenly shook his head and said softly, No matter what, I must be the family head. The Heavenly Mother looked at the Heavenly Master. Heavenly Master, is it because of that youth that you insist on choosing Wan Jun? The Heavenly Master nodded. The Heavenly Mother was puzzled. Why? He's a person with a calamity body. The Heavenly Master looked at the distant horizon and said softly, A person with a calamity body can live until now, and live so comfortably. What does this mean? It means that there's someone behind him who can defy the laws of the universe. If our Tian family can hug this leg, our Tian family will be able to rise to the next level, and even jump out of this nether river star field. Saying that, she turned to look at the Heavenly Mother. The fall of the Heavenly Master will definitely cause quite a stir. Some forces that were suppressed by our Tian family back then will probably cause trouble, especially the Sage sect. The two of you will go back to the Tian family and recall all the experts of our Tian family outside. The sage said in a deep voice, Heavenly Master, Wan Jun is currently very resistant to our Tian family. If we want her to be the family head, I'm afraid, the Heavenly Master said, I'll handle this matter. The sage glanced at the Heavenly Master. Good. Then I'll return to the family with the Heavenly Mother. After saying that, he and the Heavenly Mother disappeared. The Heavenly Master also turned and disappeared into the distant horizon. Not long after the Heavenly Master disappeared, a woman appeared in the field. It was the white-armored woman from before. The white-armored woman looked into the distance with a gloomy expression. She didn't expect to encounter the gate of adversity here. It wasn't a good thing to encounter the gate of adversity here. A moment later, the white-armored woman said softly, Damn it. After saying that, she disappeared. In the starry sky, Yi Xian was flying on his sword with Wan Jun by his side. Wan Jun said softly, This Sword Abyss is one of the two forbidden areas of our Nether River star field. Its degree of danger is second only to the forbidden areas of humans. Yi Xian asked, Why is it a forbidden area? Wan Jun said, Legend has it that a swordsman used his sword there. It was that sword that directly turned a large world there into an abyss, which is the Sword Abyss. The reason why it's dangerous is because there's an extremely terrifying and brutal sword Dao will there. The deeper you go, the stronger the sword Dao will. Swordsman. Yi Xian immediately became interested and quickly asked, Is it very strong? Wan Jun nodded with an incomparably solemn expression. Very, very strong. Ordinary experts can't even get close to the Sword Abyss. After saying that, she paused and said, actually, strictly speaking, that place is more dangerous than this forbidden area. However, you can choose that place because if you can't go any further, you can retreat. But once you enter this forbidden area, it's basically impossible to get out. Yi Xian frowned slightly. If it's so dangerous, why do so many people go there? Wan Jun said in a low voice, because a spirit ancestor once appeared there. It said that the spirit ancestor buried a box there. A box. Yi Xian was stunned for a moment. The next moment, he directly jumped up. Spirit ancestor? A box? Is it that little white guy? Wan Jun looked at Yi Xian, a little surprised. It said that the spirit ancestor's entire body is snow white. Do you know him? Yi Xian was a little dumbfounded. Know him? Of course he knew him. As if thinking of something, he suddenly said, swordsman. The one who used the sword. Don't tell me it's that green-robed man. That can't be. That green-robed man has a gentle temperament. How can his sword Dao will be brutal? At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said timidly, young master, gentle temperament. This word really doesn't suit master. You should use another word. Yi Xian. P.S. It's not that I'm late, but every time Zongheng updates the system, it needs to be reviewed. Chapter 1534. Gentle temperament? Xiao Ta was speechless. Until now, it could not forget its blood-red master. At that time, besides Xiao Bai, he would kill anyone. He even killed it. In short, its master went crazy and did not recognize his own family. Hearing Xiao Ta's words, Yi Xian was confused. I think your master's temper is quite good. Xiao Ta, Yi Xian asked again. Is it not good? Xiao Ta was silent for a moment, then said, he is quite good to his own people, and his temper was not bad. His temper was really bad in the beginning, sigh, when I followed master at that time. He was simply a pervert. One word of disagreement, he would kill your mother. Basically, no matter where he went, that world would be destroyed. He was simply a malefic. Moreover, he is even more troublesome than you, young master. Young master, trouble comes to you, but many of master's troubles were caused by him. Speaking up to this point, it paused, then said, actually, young master, you are very fortunate. Fortunate? Yi Xian was confused. Xiao Ta, you said I am fortunate? Xiao Ta said, compared to master before, you are really fortunate. Master in the past was really miserable. Back then, he fought his way out with real swords and spears. Behind him, there were millions of corpses. How could his bloodline break through? Because he was really crazy. Moreover, the people that master cared about in the past, too many died. For example, Grandpa Mu, master's mother, master's father. Especially the last battle that year, that battle, Sister Axiu and Sister Qi Bai Tian died in the battle, and two sisters Tian Ming also died in the battle. Arya and Xiao Bai were almost killed by that terrifying woman. That woman. Speaking up to this point, Xiao Ta seemed to have thought of something, his voice actually trembled. Yi Xian said in a low voice, you mean Qing, Xiao Ta hurriedly said, yes, that's her. Her name is Tian Ming. The strongest Tian Ming. If it weren't for swordsman's help in that battle, everyone would have died. Even with the help of that swordsman, master still couldn't kill that woman. That woman is terrifying. Yi Xian was speechless. Wan Jun felt a little curious. Who is Xiao Ta's master? Also, who was the woman Xiao Ta was talking about? Meanwhile, Xiao Ta said, although master's temper isn't good, as long as you don't provoke him, he won't take the initiative to bully others. As for that woman, it's no longer a matter of whether she has a good temper or not. I feel that she dislikes everyone. Yi Xian said solemnly, Xiao Ta, I think Qing has a good temper. Xiao Ta suddenly jumped up, young master, don't joke around. She has a good temper? My God. Yi Xian was speechless. Wan Jun suddenly said, Xiao Ta, your young master has a body of adversity. Those who have the body of adversity will be plagued by adversity for the rest of their lives. Xiao Ta said angrily, the body of adversity is nothing. Master can kill the Mother * king cause of adversity with one slash. Hee hee. Inside the prison pagoda, the door of adversity suddenly laughed coldly. Xiao Ta suddenly ran to the 9th floor. Xiao Er, are you unhappy? The door of adversity said angrily, get lost, I don't want to talk to you. If it weren't for that swordsman sealing her abilities, she would have smashed this stupid pagoda to pieces. Compared to Yi Xian, she was even more displeased with this stupid pagoda. Yi Xian was despicable, but this stupid pagoda was annoying, extremely annoying. Xiao Ta did not leave, but continued to say, Xiao Er, have some manners. The door of adversity stared at Xiao Ta. You're talking about manners with me? Are you trying to make me laugh to death and inherit my pagoda? Yi Xian was speechless. Xiao Ta said, Xiao Er, I didn't scold you, did I? The door of adversity was expressionless. Can you get lost? Xiao Ta jumped up and down. I won't. Hit me then. The door of adversity stared at Xiao Ta. She did not make a move, because she could not do anything to this stupid pagoda in her current state. In fact, this Xiao Ta was more terrifying than the experts outside. She could kill an Eternal Realm expert in seconds, but she could not do anything to this Xiao Ta. This Xiao Ta was too tough. Only in her normal state could she defeat this Xiao Ta. Yi Xian suddenly said, Miss Xiao Er, can I ask you a question? The door of adversity looked up. You get lost too. You and this stupid pagoda are both despicable. I don't want to talk to you. Yi Xian was speechless. Beside him, Wan Jun shook her head and smiled. Miss Xiao Er, why must you kill him? Just because he has a disaster body? Yi Xian looked at Wan Jun. Wan Jun had asked exactly what he wanted to ask. This girl knew what he was thinking. Could she be interested in him? Inside the prison pagoda, the door of adversity said calmly, isn't that enough? Wan Jun frowned. Then you're too overbearing. The door of adversity looked up and sneered. Overbearing? Are you joking? Do you know why he has a disaster body? Wan Jun shook her head. I don't. The door of adversity said coldly, there are 3 reasons. First, he himself. Second, his father. Third, his sister. Yi Xian was confused. What do you mean? The door of adversity was expressionless. What do you mean? Do you know how deep the sin your father and your sister committed back then was? Especially when the 2 of them forcefully went against the heavens in order to save some people. They disrupted the laws and order of the universe, causing cracks to appear in them. Do you know how serious the consequences were? Yi Xian frowned. You can just look for them for what they did. Why did they bully me? Don't tell me they're just bullying the weak and fearing the strong. The door of adversity said angrily, do you think you're innocent? Yi Xian said angrily, of course I'm innocent. I'm the scapegoat. Who else would I be innocent if not? The door of adversity's voice suddenly grew louder. Innocent my ass. It's all your own doing. Innocent my ass. Yi Xian was confused. What do you mean by myself? The door of adversity's expression was extremely cold. Do you know who you are? Yi Xian said, I'm Yi Xian. The door of adversity shook its head. I'm speechless. Yi Xian was speechless. The door of adversity said again, you're that woman's brother, but do you know what your past life was like? You definitely don't know, because none of us know. Yi Xian blinked in disbelief. What the heck? You mean to say that the life in which I was Qing Er's brother's brother wasn't simple? The door of adversity fell silent for a moment before saying, from what we know, you've been going against the heavens since the beginning. There was a period of time when the reincarnation laws were disrupted. It was also because of that time that the reincarnation laws were heavily injured. According to our calculations, it was definitely your doing. However, we don't know who you were in your past life. We only know that mysterious person was the first person to break the laws and reincarnate. Yi Xian said excitedly, so you're saying that my past life was a superpower? The door of adversity was expressionless. Why? You seem very happy. Yi Xian was about to speak when the door of adversity said angrily, you're a pig. That person reincarnated, but it wasn't a true reincarnation. His body, soul, and memories were reincarnated together. Simply put, you were a sacrifice chosen by him. Once he regained his memories, you would cease to exist. Unfortunately, he reincarnated and became that woman's brother. Furthermore, he was unlucky and died before he regained his memories. Most importantly, that woman woke up. Did you know? After that woman woke up, she defied the heavens again and disrupted the reincarnation laws to forcefully change your fate. Yi Xian was silent for a moment before saying, the mysterious person you mentioned, has he already reincarnated? The door of adversity said, no. He's still you. Yi Xian was puzzled. Isn't he dead? The door of adversity said angrily, in that life, that woman in a plain dress forcefully defied the heavens. She forcefully entered the reincarnation cycle to save you. Not only that, but she also defied the laws of life to forcefully extend your life. She saved you, which was equivalent to saving the mysterious person who reincarnated into your body. However, she was very impressive. She stopped that person from awakening. She forcefully stopped that person from awakening. Otherwise, you would have been long gone. Yi Xian was speechless. The door of adversity said, your entire family is perverted. That green-robed man also defied the heavens and forcefully entered the reincarnation cycle to save someone. That woman is also. Do you know? The reincarnation laws were seriously injured and unconscious by your family. She's really pitiful. It's because of her coma that countless experts in the universe are able to reincarnate with their memories. In the past, this would have been impossible. One life is one life. If a person's life reaches its end, it's the end. It's impossible for them to reincarnate with their memories. However, as the reincarnation laws went into hibernation, the world was in chaos. This is all your family's doing. Yi Xian was speechless. The door of adversity was furious. It said, it's fine if she defied the reincarnation laws. That woman also defied the laws of life, time, cause and effect, and fate. In order to save you, she defied almost all the laws except the number one law. Moreover, she continues to defy them. If she continues to defy them, the order of the universe will be gone. Once all living beings are free from the restrictions of these laws, many people will be able to live forever and reincarnate with their memories. Do you know how terrifying that is? At this point, she paused and said, Big brother, if you still have a conscience, kill yourself. If you continue to play like this, you won't be able to take it anymore. Yi Xian was speechless. The door of adversity said, that's not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing is that she's looking for the laws of the universe everywhere. Not only does she want to defy them, but she also wants to kill us. This is 2F** King unreasonable. P.S. To explain again, every update is reviewed, so it might be a few minutes late. Everyone, please forgive me. It's really not that I woke up late, it's that I'm late. This time, I'm telling the truth. Lastly, I've been working hard to save up my manuscripts. Wait for my next explosion. Chapter 1535. There was no justice in this world. The door of adversity was feeling extremely aggrieved. The universal law could be said to be the justice of the universe. Now, this family was defying the heavens. Not only did they want to defy the heavens, but they also wanted to kill them. There was no justice in this world. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, Xiao Heir, don't make it sound so aggrieved. Back then, it was you who wanted to kill the young master without asking the reason. That's why that woman was angry. If it wasn't for that woman and master's strength, the young master would have been killed by you. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. He naturally wouldn't sympathize with the door of adversity. Just like what Xiao Ta said, if it wasn't for Qing Er, he would have been dead. At that time, who would sympathize with him? The door of adversity suddenly said, he is the source of all misfortune. As long as he doesn't die, this matter will not end. Xiao Ta angrily scolded, you stupid door. If the young master dies, that sister Tian Ming will go crazy. Once she goes crazy, forget about you, even master and that swordsman won't be able to stop her. At that time, everyone will die. The door of adversity coldly looked at Xiao Ta. Since ancient times, no one has ever been truly undefeatable. Xiao Ta angrily jumped up, idiot. It knew how terrifying that woman was. She was a woman who was even scarier than its master when she went crazy. Under normal circumstances, its master wouldn't act recklessly, but that woman could at any time. Moreover, in that woman's eyes, other than her brother, everyone else was no different from a dead person. Among the three swords, she was the most indifferent to life. Within the tower, the door of adversity slowly closed its eyes. Although it had never come into direct contact with the plain-clothed woman, it knew that she was very strong. If she wasn't strong, the adversity law wouldn't have personally appeared to lure her away. Not only the plain-clothed woman, but the swordsman she met was also very strong. She had never seen such a strong swordsman. However, the Cosmos God Court had no way out. Just like in the secular world, when someone rebelled, did the emperor have a way out? The ministers could surrender, but could the emperor surrender? In space, Yi Xian was silent. From adversity's mouth, he learned many, many things. He had to admit that he was feeling very complicated at the moment. He suddenly realized that Qing Er had done a lot for him, but Qing Er had never told him about it. Yi Xian raised his head and looked into the depths of the starry sky. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. Qing Er, can you hear me? In a certain unknown starry sky, the entire starry sky was blood red, and in the depths of that starry sky, there was an endless bridge. Upon closer inspection, the entire bridge was made of bones. Below the bridge was a sea of blood. A bridge of bones. Blood as the sea. On the bridge, a woman was walking slowly. It was the plain-dressed woman. As if sensing something, the woman in the simple dress suddenly stopped. She tilted her head slightly, and a moment later, the corners of her mouth curled up. This smile caused the starry sky to lose its color. At this moment, the sea of blood under the bridge suddenly trembled. Not long after, the sea of blood began to squirm. Gradually, the blood began to gather on the bridge. After several breaths of time, a bloodied man appeared in front of the plain-dressed woman. Below the bridge, the sea of blood had disappeared. In between the bloodied man's eyebrows, there was a small black word, prisoner. The bloodied man took a deep breath and said greedily, the taste of freedom is so good. The plain-dressed woman looked at the bloodied man and did not speak. Instead, she continued to move forward. The bloodied man looked at the plain-dressed woman and smiled, I've been imprisoned for 1,000,000 years, and that woman said that as long as I kill you, I can regain my true freedom and leave this boundless godly penitentiary. I know that you're very strong and killing you is very difficult. However, no matter how difficult it is, it's not as difficult as defying the heavens, right? The plain-dressed woman stopped and looked at the bloodied man, defying the heavens, there's still a chance of survival. Defying me? As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly drew her sword and slashed. Chi! Before the bloodied man could react, a ray of sword light had already pierced through his eyebrows. At this moment, the plain-dressed woman was already behind him. The plain-dressed woman sheathed her sword and her lips curled into a mocking smile. What is the heavens? Can you take a strike from me? As she spoke, she continued to walk into the distance. On the bridge, The bloodied man stared blankly at the distant starry sky, imprisoned for 1,000,000 years, died as soon as I came out. I didn't even report my name. As soon as he finished speaking, he dispersed like a wisp of green smoke with the wind. He was directly erased. Nether River Galaxy. Yi Xian withdrew his gaze. Right now, he really wanted to see Qing'er. However, he also knew that his current strength was still too weak. Strength. Yi Xian glanced at the sword in his hand. Right now, his top priority was to reach the level of a common sword. Wan Jun suddenly said, "We're almost there." Yi Xian withdrew his thoughts and looked into the distant starry sky. He was a little curious. Why did the green-dressed man attack in that place? What would be in the box that the little white guy buried there? Yi Xian and Wan Jun began to quicken their pace. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly floated to Yi Xian's shoulder and gently rubbed it against Yi Xian's shoulder. "Young master, let's fuse." Yi Xian glanced at Xiao Ta and smiled. "Why?" Xiao Ta said, "If we fuse, you will be able to unleash my full power. Then, we will be able to break that broken door." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. This guy was going against the door of disaster. Xiao Ta said again, "Fuse? If you are willing to fuse with me, I can give you many treasures left behind by my master." "Right. And Arya's blood, the blood left behind after she was beaten, can help you improve your physical body." Blood. Yi Xian was instantly tempted. The little girl with the horn on her head was very terrifying. If he used her blood to rebuild his physical body, he would at least be at the consolidation realm. Or even the eternal realm. Yi Xian was a little excited. Xiao Ta continued to tempt him, "Young master, as long as you agree, I can give you many, many treasures." Yi Xian shook his head, "Not now." Xiao Ta was a little confused. "Why?" Yi Xian smiled, "Because I want to reach the mortal sword level." It was not easy for him to not rely on external objects. How could he easily use them again? He knew that if he reached the eternal realm and unsealed 2 of his bloodlines, his combat power would be very terrifying. Forget about everything else, even Wan Jun would not be a match for him. Under those circumstances, eternal realm would be like ants in front of him. However, he really did not want to rely on external objects. At least before reaching the mortal sword level, he would not use any external objects. Xiao Ta sighed softly. Yi Xian smiled, "It's fine. Once I reach the mortal sword level, we will work together to defeat her." Inside the prison pagoda, the door of disaster sneered, "Defeat me? Is there a need for you to be so shameless?" Yi Xian, at this moment, Wan Jun suddenly said, "We're here." Saying so, she stopped. Yi Xian also stopped. He looked into the distance, and at the end of his vision, in the depths of the starry sky, there was a huge abyss. The sword abyss. This sword abyss was really big, and standing in front of it was like an ant standing in front of a bathtub. They were very far away from the sword abyss, but Yi Xian could feel an extremely powerful sword Dao will. This sword Dao will was extremely violent, and it exuded a vicious aura. Moreover, he was slightly surprised because this sword Dao will seemed slightly familiar to him. At this moment, the door of disaster appeared next to Yi Xian. She looked into the distance and frowned. Yi Xian glanced at the door of disaster. "Why did you come out?" The door of disaster looked coldly at Yi Xian. "Are you not convinced? If you are not convinced, fight me. The kind that doesn't call people." Yi Xian, Wan Jun suddenly said, "Miss, what do you think of this sword Dao will?" The door of disaster looked coldly at the sword abyss, and did not speak. Wan Jun did not ask any more questions, and looked at Yi Xian. "Let's go." Yi Xian nodded. The two continued forward, and before long, Wan Jun's expression gradually became solemn. This sword Dao will was too powerful. It was like a mountain was pressing down on her, and the further they went, the stronger the pressure. Wan Jun was very shocked. She was a peak eternal realm expert, but at this moment, she was being suppressed by a sword Dao will, and this sword Dao will had existed for many years. Just how strong was the owner of this sword Dao will? As if thinking of something, Wan Jun looked at the door of disaster, and the door of disaster seemed to be affected as well, frowning slightly. Just like that, the three of them walked for about 3,000 feet, and they had reached the edge of the sword abyss. At this moment, Wan Jun's face was already dripping with cold sweat, and her footsteps felt like they were weighed down by 1,000 kilograms, and every step was extremely strenuous. Moreover, the hostility in the sword Dao will was becoming more and more terrifying, and if not for her strong will, she would have been corroded by the hostility. The frown on the misfortune gate's brows grew deeper and deeper, but there was a peculiar glint in the depths of her eyes. This wisp of sword chi was very strong. If they used it well, they might be able to kill this guy. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said, "You seem to be having a hard time." Hearing this, the two women turned to look at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian looked relaxed, as if nothing had happened. Wan Jun was confused. How is this possible?" Yi Xian blinked. "I feel fine." Wan Jun frowned slightly. "Can't you feel that sword Dao will?" Yi Xian said, "Yes." Hua Jun was shocked. "Then why are you still so relaxed?" Yi Xian was a little puzzled. "It's very easy." "Why do you look like you're having a hard time?" Just as La Jun was about to speak, Xiao Ta's voice suddenly rang out. "Of course young master feels relaxed." Because this sword will was left behind by the master, how could it dare to be impudent in front of the young master? "Young master, I just received a message from this sword will. It said it wants to go with you. What do you think?" Yi Xian blinked. "Come with me?" Xiao Ta said, "Yes, it said it wants to go with you. Please accept it, it can help you fight." Wan Jun, at the side, the door of disaster's expression became extremely ugly. As if she couldn't take it anymore, she suddenly swung her hand. Motherf asterisk cur. "I'm not playing anymore." Boom. In the distance, a part of the starry sky was annihilated. She returned to the prison pagoda. Chapter 1536. Yi Xian ignored the door of disaster and looked into the distance. At that moment, they were about to enter the sword abyss. He could feel the sword Dao will, but unlike Wan Jun, he did not feel any pressure. On the contrary, he felt a sense of familiarity with the sword Dao will. Yi Xian's eyes gradually became blank. A strand of sword Dao will, even after tens of thousands of years, could still exert pressure on a powerhouse like the door of disaster. How terrifying was that? That was just a strand of sword Dao will. Moreover, it was definitely not intentional by the green-robed man. It might have been left behind by accident. What level had the green-robed man reached? What was a swordsman? This was a swordsman. A strand of sword Dao will not be extinguished even after tens of thousands of years. Yi Xian looked at the sword in his hand and shook his head with a smile. The path of sword Dao was endless. Becoming mortal was probably just the beginning. At this thought, Yi Xian's eyes were no longer blank. He looked into the sword abyss in the distance again and smiled. "Let's go, Wan Jun." Wan Jun nodded. The two of them continued forward. After 2 steps, Yi Xian found that Wan Jun was getting more and more strained. He hesitated for a moment and then grabbed Wan Jun's hand. With this pull, Wan Jun felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her body. The oppressive force of the sword Dao will actually disappeared. Wan Jun turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. "I didn't mean to take advantage of her." At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, "Young master, just use your sword Dao or sword domain to envelop Sister Wan Jun." Yi Xian's face was expressionless. He said in his heart, "Shut up." Xiao Ta jumped up and down. "Young master, I understand now. You wanted to hold Sister Wan Jun's hand on purpose. You're such a pervert." Yi Xian was speechless. Beside him, Wan Jun looked calm because she had heard Xiao Ta's words. Yi Xian smiled. "Xiao Ta is naughty and likes to talk nonsense. Don't mind him." "Xiao Ta, is it the tower that's mischievous, or the person that's mischievous? Yi Xian blushed with shame and was about to let go of Wan Jun's hand, but Wan Jun grabbed his hand instead. Hua Jun faced Yi Xian. It's just holding hands. It's not like we're sleeping. It's no big deal. Yi Xian was speechless. The two of them no longer bothered about holding hands. Soon, they entered the Sword Abyss. This Sword Abyss was originally a world, but this world had been completely erased by a single sword strike. Even the laws of the universe couldn't restore it. The Sword Abyss was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. After entering, the entire abyss made one involuntarily fearful. Yi Xian was fine. He was not afraid of this place at all. After all, the sword will here had already submitted. What was there to be afraid of? The two of them continued forward. As they walked, Hua Jun's expression became more and more solemn. Because the deeper she went, the stronger the will of the sword Dao grew. Fortunately, the will of the sword Dao didn't target her again. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to reach this place. Not long after, Yi Xian and Hua Jun suddenly stopped. An old man's corpse was floating not far in front of them. Hua Jun frowned slightly at the sight of the corpse. Yi Xian asked, "Do you know him?" Hua Jun said solemnly, "This was an elder of my Tian family. He came here with my father and second uncle." As she spoke, she pulled Yi Xian over to the old man's corpse. After looking at it for a moment, her expression became even more gloomy. He was killed by someone. Yi Xian glanced at the old man. Just as Hua Jun had said, he was indeed killed by someone. Hua Jun suddenly walked into the distance. Yi Xian hurriedly followed. Hua Jun quickened her pace. Yi Xian glanced at Hua Jun but didn't say a word. About an hour later, the two of them stopped again. A middle-aged man's corpse was floating hundreds of feet in front of them. From the looks of it, he bore some resemblance to Hua Jun. However, there was no longer a soul in the middle-aged man's body. His soul had truly been extinguished. Looking at the corpse, Hua Jun was completely dumbfounded. Gradually, two streams of clear liquid flowed out of her eyes. Yi Xian sighed inwardly. This Miss Hua Jun was also a person with a bitter life. Her father was killed, she was imprisoned, and her entire family was slaughtered. If it were him, he would definitely slaughter the entire Tian family. At this moment, Hua Jun put away the middle-aged man's corpse and turned to Yi Xian. "Let's go." Yi Xian nodded. The two of them continued forward. Hua Jun didn't say a word along the way. Although the sword intent was getting stronger, the two of them weren't affected in the slightest. At this moment, Hua Jun suddenly said, "I want to go back and become the Tian family's patriarch." Yi Xian looked at Hua Jun. "I support you." Hua Jun turned to Yi Xian. "Aren't you going to ask why?" Yi Xian smiled. "Why?" Hua Jun shook her head. Her expression was complicated. She paused before continuing, "The Tian family is my father's life's work. If he was still alive, he definitely wouldn't let the Tian family become a cold-blooded family. Therefore, I want to go back and become the patriarch. I want to change the Tian family so that the tragedy of my family will never happen again." Yi Xian nodded. "That's fine. However, Hua Jun, you need to understand one thing. If you don't have enough strength, I'm afraid you won't be able to truly subdue the Tian family." Hua Jun nodded slightly. "I understand." Saying this, she turned to Yi Xian. "After leaving this place, what are your plans?" Yi Xian thought about it and said, "I want to go back to the fifth dimension." He had been out for a long time. Sister Nian and the others must be worried. Hua Jun asked, "Is the fifth dimension very far from here?" Yi Xian nodded. "Very far. If it wasn't for the door of disaster tearing through the star field, he wouldn't have been able to come to the Nether River star field." Hua Jun suddenly said, "You need to be careful of the door of disaster." Yi Xian nodded. "I know. The door of disaster. Swordsman couldn't follow him forever. He still had to face the cause of disaster. Mortal Sword. Now, he urgently wanted to reach Mortal Sword. Only by reaching Mortal Sword could he barely contend with the Adept of Disaster. The reason why this woman was so low-key was because of Swordsman. Once Swordsman left, the door would definitely flip out. The two continued to move forward. At this moment, they were already deep into the sword abyss. Yi Xian could feel the sword Dao's will. He was looking forward to that little white guy's box. That little guy was weird. It must have contained some good treasure. About an hour later, Yi Xian and Huajun arrived at the deepest part of the sword abyss. When they reached the deepest part of the sword abyss, they were stunned. This was because they saw an old man in the deepest part of the sword abyss. There was a living person here. The old man wore a loose black robe. His hands were hidden in his sleeves, and his aura was as deep as the sea. At this moment, the old man was also looking at Yi Xian and Huajun. There was a trace of shock in his eyes. Obviously, he didn't expect someone to be able to reach this place. Huajun suddenly said, "Li Jueqing." The old man looked at Huajun, a trace of surprise flashing in his eyes. "Little girl, you know me?" Huajun looked at the old man with a solemn expression. "You really are Li Jueqing?" The old man nodded. "Little girl, you are?" Yi Xian also looked at Huajun. Huajun said solemnly, "He's the former sect leader of Glory Sect. He's currently recognized as the strongest person in Stick Sector. If it weren't for fear of him, the Tian family would have destroyed Glory Sect back then." The strongest person. Yi Xian looked at Li Jueqing. No wonder this guy could carry the sword Dao's will all the way here. He's not simple. At this moment, Li Jueqing suddenly said, "You're that little girl from the Tian family." Huajun nodded. Li Jueqing smiled. "Not bad." As he said that, he looked at Yi Xian. "This little friend is?" Yi Xian cupped his fists. "Yi Xian. I'm from the five-dimensional universe." Li Jueqing's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. The five-dimensional universe. As far as I know, it's very far from here. How did you get here? Yi Xian said, "I came from the same gate." The gate of disaster was speechless. Li Jueqing sized up Yi Xian. A trace of shock flashed in the depths of his eyes. Adversity Constitution. "Young man, you're not simple." Yi Xian smiled. "Senior, what are you doing here?" Li Jueqing smiled. "Rumor has it that a peerless swordsman once appeared here. Therefore, I wanted to pay my respects to that senior." Yi Xian asked, "What does senior think of that swordsman?" Li Jueqing looked around and said softly, "A wisp of sword Dao will can stop me. I'm far from that." As he said that, he seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly looked at Yi Xian. "Little friend, with your strength, you shouldn't be able to reach here." "Why did you?" Yi Xian blinked. "Is this sword Dao will very strong?" Li Jueqing was stunned. Then, he asked, "Not strong?" Yi Xian said seriously, "It's just a so-so." Li Jueqing was speechless. Yi Xian cupped his fists. "Senior, we're going. Goodbye." As he said that, he took Huajun and walked into the distance. Li Jueqing quickly said, "Little friend, wait." Yi Xian looked at Li Jueqing. Li Jueqing said in a deep voice, "Little friend, the area ahead not only has a strong sword Dao will, but also some remnant sword qi. These sword qi are extremely strong. If you're not careful, your soul will be destroyed. Little friend, you must not underestimate it. Remnant sword qi." Yi Xian looked in front of him. As expected, there was sword qi in the area ahead. Moreover, there was a lot of it. These sword qi were remnant sword qi. This sword qi was much stronger than Tingyun's sword qi back then. Yi Xian glanced at Li Jueqing. "Senior, the reason why you stayed here is because of these sword qi?" Li Jueqing nodded. Yes. Yi Xian smiled. It's just sword qi. It's not enough. As he said that, he took Huajun and walked into the distance. When he walked to the sword qi area, he suddenly shouted, "How dare you act rashly in front of me, a swordsman? Back off." As soon as he said that, the sword qi in front of him retreated to both sides in an orderly manner. Not only that, but the sword Dao will also retreated like the tide. Seeing this scene, Li Jueqing, who was in the distance, was dumbfounded. He was extremely shocked. Which big shot is pretending to be weak? Inside the prison pagoda, Xiao Ta said awkwardly, "Little lord's pretentious act. Even I feel awkward." On the 9th floor, the door of disaster turned to face the tower wall and slammed its head against it. "I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Let me die." P.S. The physical books have arrived, including Invincible Sword Realm and The Only Sword. I'm going to hold a small event soon. Everyone can follow my WeChat account, on the Green Phoenix Peak. He directly searched the official WeChat account, Qinghuan Peak. All he had to do was click on the follow button. Chapter 1537. Needless to say, Li Jueqing was extremely shocked right now. The area that Yi Xian had stepped foot into was an area that he didn't dare step foot into in the past. Because the sword Dao intent and remnant sword qi in that area were truly too formidable. However, this young man before him was actually able to make the sword qi and sword Dao intent retreat. This wasn't a matter of strength anymore. Because he was able to sense that the young man before him wasn't particularly strong. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for the young man to arrive here. However, the young man hadn't just arrived here, he'd even made the remnant sword qi and sword Dao intent retreat with a single shout. There was only one explanation, and it was that the young man was actually a big shot. An extraordinary big shot. There was nothing wrong with such an analysis. Yi Xian suddenly stopped not too far away, and then he turned around to look at Li Jueqing. "Senior, do you want to go ahead and have a look?" Li Jueqing hesitated for a moment before he said, "I'm not worthy of being called a senior. If you don't mind, you can call me Big Brother Li. We'll talk as equals." Wan Jun had a slightly strange expression on her face. Li Jueqing wasn't an ordinary person. He was the #1 extraordinary expert of the current era, and it could be said that even her father couldn't compare to him. Yet at this moment, such an extraordinary expert actually wanted to talk to Yi Xian as equals. It wasn't that Yi Xian wasn't worthy, it was mainly because it was slightly strange. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he smiled, "Then I won't be unreasonable. Big Brother Li, are you interested in going in with us?" Li Jueqing smiled, "Of course I'm interested in your invitation." Yi Xian smiled, "Then let's go." As he spoke, he pulled Wan Jun along as he walked towards the distance. Li Jueqing followed them as well. Because of Yi Xian, the remnant sword qi and sword Dao intent didn't target Li Jueqing. Li Jueqing was even more shocked when he witnessed this scene. He really is a big shot. Yi Xian's group of 3 walked towards the depths of the sword abyss. All along the way, the remnant sword qi and sword intent retreated wherever Yi Xian passed. However, they didn't retreat far. They just waited at the side, as if they were waiting for something. Not long after, Yi Xian, who was in the lead, stopped. Not far away from the 3 of them, there was a man sitting cross-legged. The man's hair was disheveled, and his face could not be seen. A will floated above the man's head. Sword Dao will. Yi Xian and the other 2 looked at each other with a trace of shock in their eyes. This man was actually alive. At this moment, the man slowly raised his head and looked at Yi Xian and the others in the distance. When he saw Yi Xian, his pupils dilated. "You, it's you," Yi Xian blinked. "What do you mean by me?" The man said in a trembling voice, "Bloodline, your bloodline." Yi Xian frowned slightly. Did this guy think he was the man in the green robe? "Are you imprisoned here?" Wan Jun suddenly asked. The man nodded. He glanced at Yi Xian and said, "You're not him. But you share the same bloodline." Yi Xian glanced at the man. "Why aren't you imprisoned here?" The man fell silent. Yi Xian smiled. "Fine. It has nothing to do with me anyway." As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes lit up. There was a box not too far away from the man. A box. Yi Xian walked over to the box. There were 2 candied haws on the box. Needless to say, it must have been left behind by that white kid. Yi Xian picked up the box. He opened it and glanced at it, but he quickly closed it again. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly. Yi Xian put the box away, and then he looked at Wan Jun. "Let's go." Wan Jun glanced at Yi Xian, but she didn't ask anything. Yi Xian immediately put the box away. Obviously, he didn't want others to know what was inside it. Right at this moment, the man at the side suddenly said, "Sir, please wait." Yi Xian turned to look at the man. The man hesitated for a moment before he said, "Sir, can you let me go?" Yi Xian shook his head. "No." The man looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian said, "The green-clothed man imprisoned you here. Needless to say, you must have done something to infuriate him." The man said angrily, "I was dragged into this." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Dragged into this?" The man suddenly became slightly agitated. "Big brother, think about it. He's so strong that he could kill me with a single glance. Is it really necessary for him to imprison me here?" Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. "Then why are you imprisoned here?" The man sighed softly. "I was just unlucky. There was a huge commotion here all those years ago, and I rushed here out of curiosity. As soon as I arrived, this place was transformed into an abyss before I could even figure out what was going on. Moreover, my body was blasted into pieces by a strand of remnant sword intent." As he spoke, he suddenly slapped himself. "I was stupid. What the hell was I doing here?" The expressions of Yi Xian and the others became slightly strange. The man smiled bitterly. "I'm just too unlucky. I really just came here to watch. I didn't do anything. I really didn't do anything." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Since the green-clothed man didn't target you, then why didn't you leave?" The man's smile became even more bitter. "Big brother, look around me. There's remnant sword intent and sword chi everywhere. I don't dare to move. I really don't dare to move. If I move, the remnant sword chi will kill me. Do you know how I've lived for the past tens of thousands of years? I've been pretending to be dead every single day for the past tens of thousands of years. Only by pretending to be dead can the sword chi not target me. It's too fucking hard." At this point, the man's voice was already sobbing. Yi Xian, beside him, Pajuan shook his head. "You too. Why did you come here to watch the show?" The man shook his head repeatedly. "Who knew that swordsman would be so terrifying? If I'd known he was so terrifying, I wouldn't have come even if you beat me to death." "Pajuan," Yi Xian suddenly asked, "you can't beat the sword chi?" The man looked at Yi Xian. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "I can't beat it." Yi Xian was slightly surprised. "It's just some remnant sword chi. You can't even beat it?" The man's expression became slightly unnatural. "Do you think these sword chi are very weak?" Yi Xian opened his palm. Some sword chi floated directly in front of him. He directly grabbed the sword chi. The sword chi didn't resist at all. Seeing this scene, the man became dumbfounded. "This," Yi Xian said, "I think these sword chi are quite tame." The man hesitated for a moment. He opened his palm, but just as he moved, a wisp of sword chi directly pierced through his arm. Swoosh! The man's arm was cut off. The man was shocked. He immediately did not dare to move. He looked at Yi Xian in a daze. "Where did I go wrong?" Yi Xian was about to speak. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. Where did I go wrong? You idiot. This sword chi is on his side. Can't you tell? How dare you ask where I went wrong? If there's a mistake, then there's something wrong with your brain. The voice of the door of woe disaster. Hearing this, the man immediately flew into a rage. Who is it? At this moment, the door of woe disaster appeared next to Yi Xian. She looked coldly at the man. You're not convinced? When the man saw the door of woe disaster, he was stunned at first. Then, he hurriedly shook his head. No. I'm convinced, she confirmed with her eyes that it was someone she could not beat. The door of woe disaster glanced coldly at the man, and then she turned around and vanished. Li Jueqing's expression had unknowingly become solemn. The door of woe disaster. As soon as this woman appeared, she gave him a feeling of extreme danger. Li Jueqing glanced at Yi Xian. His background really isn't simple. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly gestured with his right hand. The remaining sword qi in the surroundings suddenly surged towards him like a tide. Moreover, the will of the sword Dao entered his body as well. Yi Xian opened his palm, and the remaining sword qi swiftly converged at the center of his palm. A sword of energy gradually appeared there. It was a sword condensed from the man's sword qi. Li Jueqing's expression became solemn once more when he saw the sword of energy, and there was even a trace of fear in the depths of his eyes. Yi Xian gazed at the sword of energy in his hand. Needless to say, the sword of energy was very strong. However, it could only be used once because the remaining sword qi had been separated from its owner for too long. If he used it, the sword qi would exhaust the last of its energy. However, if he didn't use it, the sword qi could continue existing for over 100,000 years without any external interference. Simply speaking, he was unable to regenerate the sword qi because he wasn't the man in green. After Yi Xian put away the sword qi and sword Dao's will, the man instantly regained his freedom. He stood up and took a deep breath greedily. As if he'd thought of something, he suddenly looked at Yi Xian and cupped his fists. Thank you, brother. I'm Shiman. May I know your name? Yi Xian smiled. Yi Xian. Shiman smiled. I can't thank you with words. Brother Yi, if you need anything in the future, just send someone to the dark world to notify me. No matter how far it is, I'll definitely rush over. At this moment, Li Jueqing suddenly asked, You're from the dark world? Shiman looked at Li Jueqing and nodded, yes. Li Jueqing glanced at Shiman and didn't say anything else. Shiman looked at Yi Xian and cupped his fists. Brother Yi, I've just gotten out of trouble. I miss my family, so I have to go back. Please come to the dark world in the future. Yi Xian smiled. If there's a chance, I'll definitely come. Shiman nodded. Brother Yi, farewell. After saying that, he turned and disappeared into the end of the starry sky. Yi Xian suddenly sighed in a low voice after the west gate had disappeared. Wan Jun looked at Yi Xian. What are you sighing about? Yi Xian shook his head. I'm not used to it. Wan Jun was puzzled. What are you not used to? Yi Xian sighed softly. After my big brother suppressed the cause of calamity, I've only made good karma up until now. Most importantly, the experts I've met are getting smarter. They don't do anything stupid to me anymore. To be honest, I'm not used to it. As he said that, he patted his abdomen. Little misfortune, give me some cause of calamity. In the prison pagoda, the door of calamity suddenly roared, Bitch, do you dare to let your big brother go? Do you dare? Ah. FPZW. Chapter 1538. In the 9th floor, the adversity karma was so angry that she was about to go crazy. She really wanted to go out and beat this pretentious prick up. But there was no other way. Because that swordsman had always been there. If she attacked, that swordsman might just stab her with his sword. She couldn't fight him, so could she just watch him act like a prick? She wanted to go out and perish together with Yi Xian. She couldn't take it anymore. In the sword abyss, Yi Xian said, "Little adversity. Don't be so agitated. I'm just feeling a little emotional. But honestly, without your interference, I don't think my life is that bad." In the prison pagoda, the adversity gate took a deep breath. She tried her best to calm herself down. She couldn't be angry. She couldn't be angered to death by this guy. Otherwise, it would be too much of a loss. Seeing that the adversity gate didn't say anything, Yi Xian was about to ask again, but the adversity gate suddenly said, "Do you really think that we would interfere with you for no reason? Do you know what karma is? Without karma, how can there be karma? The reason why you're plagued by misfortune is because of your own sins, your father, and your sister. Especially your sister, she forcefully went against the heavens to save you. That's one of the karma." Yi Xian said with a smile, "According to what you're saying, should die?" The adversity gate said coldly, "Why can't you die?" Yi Xian asked back, "Why should our fates be decided by you?" The adversity gate said, "If there's no order in this universe, do you know what will happen?" Yi Xian said with a smile, "Don't you care about fairness in your order?" The adversity gate asked back, "Why do you think that we're unfair to you?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "You told me that someone disrupted the law of reincarnation and reincarnated into my previous life, which was Qing Er's brother's life. Let me ask you, was I Qing Er's brother or that mysterious person in my previous life?" The adversity gate was silent. Yi Xian continued, "If I'm not mistaken, before that person awakened, I should have been Qing Er's brother, right? Since I'm not that mysterious person, why should I die? Is this fair to me?" The gate of disaster said in a deep voice, "If you die in that life, you will bring that mysterious person with you. If that person dies, the world will regain its order." Yi Xian smiled and said, "According to what you said, the one who really broke the order is that mysterious person, right?" The door of disaster did not speak again. Because as Yi Xian had said, the first person to defy the laws of the universe was that mysterious man. The woman in the plain dress didn't dare to forcefully sever her karma until now because of that mysterious person. She was afraid that it would bring bad consequences to Yi Xian. Yi Xian continued, "To put it simply, the mysterious man was the one who broke the order. But in order to get rid of future troubles, you decided to kill me, right?" The gate of woeful disaster said, "Don't lead me astray. I've said it before. Other than that mysterious person, there's another reason why you're plagued by misfortune. It's because of your father and your sister, especially your sister. In order to save you, she forcefully defied the laws of the universe and disregarded the order of the laws of the universe. This is also one of the main reasons why you're plagued by misfortune." Yi Xian was confused. Qing defied the laws of the universe. Why don't you look for Qing? The gate of woeful disaster said angrily, "She's already free from all karma. How are we supposed to look for her?" Yi Xian was dumbfounded. "So you came to look for me?" The gate of woeful disaster asked, "Is there a problem?" Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "No problem. What Qing did is what I did. It's only right that you come to look for me. There's nothing wrong with that." The gate of woeful disaster said coldly, "I've known you for so long, but this is the first time you've said something sensible." Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment, Wan Jun suddenly said, "Are we leaving?" Yi Xian collected his thoughts and nodded. "Let's go." After saying that, he looked at Li Jueqing. "Brother Li, what about you?" Li Jueqing smiled. "Of course I'm leaving too." Yi Xian smiled. "Then let's go." The three of them left the sword abyss. Yi Xian turned to look at the sword abyss. He was still a little curious. Why did the green-robed man use that sword? However, this was no longer important. Because that was already history. Wan Jun suddenly said, "I'm going back to the Tian family." As she said that, she looked at Yi Xian. "What about you?" Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said, "I'm going back to the great desolate mountain range." I promised swordsman that I would leave from there. This is my promise with him. Wan Jun hesitated for a moment, then said, after that, will you return to the fifth dimension? Yi Xian nodded. That's the plan for the time being. After a moment of silence, Wan Jun said, some people disappear while walking. Am I that kind of person in your life? Yi Xian looked at Wan Jun and was stunned. Wan Jun smiled. That's a bit pretentious. No matter what, getting to know you is the most meaningful thing in my life. If you don't come looking for me, I will come looking for you. We'll meet again someday. After saying that, she directly turned around and disappeared at the end of the horizon. Yi Xian looked at the horizon in silence. Xiao Ta's voice suddenly sounded. Young master, Sister Wan Jun seems to like you. Yi Xian chuckled. She might be grateful to me. Xiao Ta said, no. Based on my many years of experience, Sister Wan Jun likes you. Yi Xian blinked. Your many years of experience? Are you very experienced? Xiao Ta said, of course, Master was very affectionate in the past. Compared to Master, young Master is too naive. Master is a real stallion. Yi Xian, Xiao Ta said again, young Master, Master often said that it's okay to be affectionate, but not promiscuous. So, if you really like her, then go chase her. What's there to be afraid of? Isn't it too embarrassing if a man doesn't have dozens of women? If I were a human, would find hundreds of women. Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Xiao Ta still wanted to say something, but the door of disaster suddenly rushed out of the 9th floor. Then, a series of explosions came from the entire prison pagoda. They were fighting again. More accurately, Xiao Ta was being beaten. Before merging with a human, Xiao Ta's ability was limited. At this time, Li Jiqing suddenly said, young friend, if you have time in the future, please come to my glory sect as a guest. Yi Xian looked at Li Jiqing and smiled. Old brother Li, I will definitely come and disturb you. Li Jiqing smiled. Today, meeting young friend, made the old man understand one thing, and that is that there is always someone better. The path of martial arts has no end. Young friend, when you reach the common sword realm, please come to the glory sect and we will exchange pointers. Yi Xian blinked. Can I do it now? Li Jiqing laughed. Young friend, your current strength is still not enough. Young friend, I will wait for you at the glory sect. With that, he disappeared into the sky. Yi Xian looked at Li Jiqing in the sky and smiled. He knew that Li Jiqing was not lying. Li Jiqing was much stronger than Wan Jun. Back in Sword Abyss, if not for him, Wan Jun would not have been able to enter Sword Abyss. Old brother Li had entered the deepest part of Sword Abyss. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian turned around and left. To the great desolate mountain range. To the great desolate mountain range again. Not long after Yi Xian left, the white-armored woman appeared. The white-armored woman looked at Yi Xian leaving in the distance. No one knew what she was thinking. Not long after, Yi Xian arrived at the Great Desolate Mountain Range's Burial Mountain Range. He looked at the empty space in front of him. That was the place where Wan Jun was imprisoned. After a moment, Yi Xian smiled and continued forward. After crossing Burial Mountain, Yi Xian came to a mountain range. As soon as he entered the mountain range, 2 middle-aged men appeared in front of him. They were Demon Monarch Gu Yu and Demon Monarch Mang. Demon Monarch Gu Yu looked at Yi Xian. Didn't you leave with that woman? They also knew what happened in Burial Mountain. However, it was the Tian family's matter, so they did not dare to chase after them. They did not dare to get involved in the Tian family's vortex. Yi Xian smiled. I'm back. Demon Monarch Gu Yu frowned. Why are you back? Yi Xian blinked. I have an agreement with my brother. I will rely on my own strength to walk out of this mountain range. Demon Monarch Gu Yu stared at Yi Xian. Are you sure? Yi Xian nodded. Demon Monarch Guyu said in a deep voice, "Human, we know you have a powerful force behind you. We do not wish to provoke you. If you want to walk out of this mountain range, you can just fly over. If you fly over, we can pretend we didn't see you." Yi Xian shook his head. "I want to walk over." Demon Monarch Guyu's expression was gloomy. "If people outside know that Dao Yi, a human, walked out of this place, we will lose face." Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, Demon Monarch Meng suddenly said, "Human, if you want to walk out of this place, you can, but you have to beat me first." Yi Xian looked at Demon Monarch Meng. "Let's fight?" Demon Monarch Meng looked at Yi Xian and said coldly, "We can fight, but let's make it clear first. You are not allowed to call for help. Only the two of us will fight. Whoever calls for help is a dog." Yi Xian nodded. "Sure." Demon Monarch Meng snorted coldly. "Bring it on." With that said, he suddenly leaped up and punched at Yi Xian. This punch caused the space in front of Yi Xian to distort into a strange vortex. Below, Yi Xian suddenly stabbed out with his sword. Sword of life and death. This sword strike was simple and simple. And it was this simple strike that instantly shattered Demon Monarch Meng's strength. At the same time, his entire body was sent flying tens of thousands of feet away. When he stopped, his body cracked and blood splattered. He was severely injured with a single strike. Demon Monarch Meng and Demon Monarch Guyu were dumbfounded. Demon Monarch Meng looked up at Yi Xian and gulped. How? How is this possible? Did you take some medicine?" Yi Xian sighed softly. "Don't you understand? You are still within the rules, but I have already jumped out of the rules." With that said, he looked up into the sky with a deep sense of helplessness in his eyes. Invincibility is lonely. Demon Monarch Meng, Demon Monarch Guyu, inside the prison pagoda, the door of calamity sat in a corner and covered its ears with both hands. F***CK, this fellow is here again. He's here again. Oh. I can't take it anymore. P.S. Zongheng is the first website of One Sword Supreme. If everyone wants to see One Sword Supreme's updates immediately, you can come to Zongheng or download the app. Just search for Zongheng and download it. Zongheng will not have any missing chapters or garbled words. Tomorrow, there will be a book giveaway event on the official account and Zongheng's comments section. Free giveaways. Please pay attention to the official account and Zongheng's comments section tomorrow. Especially the active readers of Zongheng's comments section, because some of you are already in my heart. Chapter 1539. Inside the prison pagoda, Xiao Ta hid in a corner. Not to mention the door of calamity, even he felt embarrassed. Forcefully posturing was the most fatal. In the mountain range, Demon Monarch Guyu and Demon Monarch Mount Mang were completely dumbfounded. It was especially so for Demon Monarch Mount Mang. Although he wasn't able to kill Yi Xian not long ago, he wasn't at a disadvantage when fighting Yi Xian. Furthermore, with his powerful body, he had a certain advantage. But now, he was actually forced back by a single strike and his body was directly torn apart. Did this guy take any medicine when he disappeared? Guyu was also extremely shocked. Before this, he was confident that he could suppress Yi Xian. But now, he realized that even he could not withstand Yi Xian's strike, much less Demon Monarch Mount Mang. How did this guy suddenly become so terrifying? The two demon monarchs were dumbfounded. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly looked at Demon Monarch Guyu. "Make your move. I'll give you 3 punches." Demon Monarch Guyu, Demon Monarch Mount Mang said in a deep voice, "Human, how did you suddenly become so strong?" Yi Xian smiled. "Have you ever seen a monster? If you haven't." With that said, he pointed to himself. "Have you seen one now?" Demon Monarch Guyu, Demon Monarch Mount Mang stared at Yi Xian, his face as red as a pig's liver. Yi Xian sheathed his sword and walked into the distance. When he walked to Demon Monarch Mount Mang, he suddenly stopped and sighed. Being invincible is really lonely. Mount Mang, can you understand the loneliness of being invincible? Mang Shan felt his chest tighten as he spat out a mouthful of blood essence. The blood in his body nearly reversed. At this moment, Yi Xian had already left. Demon Monarch Mount Mang was about to rush towards Yi Xian. At this moment, he no longer cared about anything. Kill this posturing human. However, he was stopped by Demon Monarch Guyu. Demon King Guyu shook his head. That sword of his has already entered the mortal realm. Our bodies cannot withstand it. Mount Mang glared angrily at Yi Xian's back. Did you see him? It's so demonic. Demon Monarch Guyu looked up at Yi Xian's back and said softly, think about it calmly. This person's strength has undergone an earth-shattering change in such a short period of time. This is terrifying. Upon hearing that, Demon Monarch Mount Mang slowly calmed down. In just a few days, Yi Xian had undergone earth-shattering changes. How terrifying was this? Guyu Demon Monarch continued, and that swordsman has always been in our great desolate mountain range, and we can be sure that he killed Hellion Demon King. As he spoke, he shook his head. To put it simply, this human is not someone we can provoke. Since he was only here to gain experience, then let him gain experience. Anyway, we didn't lose anything. After a moment of silence, Mount Mang said, that purple aura. Guyu Demon Monarch shook his head. That purple aura is not something we can imagine. At this moment, Yi Xian walked back from afar. Seeing this scene, Mount Mang and Guyu Demon Monarch's expressions changed, especially Mount Mang. Although he wanted to kill this pretentious bastard, he had calmed down. Although he disliked this human, he had to admit that he really could not beat this human. Now that he saw Yi Xian return, he panicked a little. Guyu Demon Monarch's eyes were filled with wariness. At this moment, Yi Xian opened his palm. In his palm, there were two dark purple clouds of purple aura. He looked at Guyu Demon Monarch and Mount Mang. You like this? Guyu Demon Monarch glanced at Yi Xian with wariness. What do you mean? Yi Xian smiled, nothing much. Since you like it, I'll give you some. As he spoke, he pointed with his fingers and the two clouds of purple aura floated in front of Guyu Demon Monarch and Mount Mang. The two demon monarchs looked at each other in confusion. What was this human doing? Guyu Demon Monarch looked at Yi Xian. Human. Why are you giving us purple aura? Yi Xian laughed. I've disturbed you during my training. Take this purple aura as my apology. Hearing this, Guyu Demon Monarch and Mount Mang looked at each other. At this moment, they suddenly found this human pleasing to the eye. Demon Monarch Guyu and Demon Monarch Mount Mang quietly kept the purple gas. Demon Monarch Guyu cupped his fists and said with a smile, it's not a bother. It's an honor for young Master Yi to come to our great desolate mountain range for training. Mount Mang quickly nodded, yes, yes. Guyu Demon Monarch said, young Master Yi, you said you wanted to leave the great desolate mountain range? Yi Xian nodded, yes. Guyu Demon Monarch quickly said, isn't it simple? Young Master Yi will send you out. Yi Xian, Mount Mang quickly nodded, yes, yes. Yi Xian shook his head, I promised my brother that I would rely on my own strength to leave. Guyu Demon Monarch smiled, I understand. But young Master Yi, with your current strength, there aren't many demon beasts in the great desolate mountain range that can be your match. How about this, we'll escort you and let you find the stronger demon beast. This way, you won't have to waste time. What do you think? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said, that's fine. Guyu Demon Monarch quickly said, young Master Yi, I'll lead the way. Saying that, he quickly walked in front of Yi Xian. As if he thought of something, he said, how can we let young Master Yi walk? Mount Mang suddenly whistled, and the next moment, a huge wolf suddenly leaped out from the distant forest. The huge wolf directly came in front of Yi Xian and slowly knelt down. Mount Mang made an inviting gesture, young Master Yi, please sit. Yi Xian glanced at the huge wolf and smiled, it's fate that we met. I'll give you some good fortune. As he spoke, he placed his right hand on the wolf's body. In the next moment, strands of violet energy surged out from the center of his palm. When the violet energy entered the wolf's body, it instantly felt as if it had been injected with stimulants, and its entire body started trembling violently. Seeing this scene, Mount Mang and Guyu Demon Monarch looked at each other with a trace of shock in their eyes. This was because they discovered that the huge wolf's bloodline was transforming. This was too terrifying. Yi Xian looked at the two demon monarchs. It seems to be breaking through. Why don't we walk? Just as Guyu Demon Monarch was about to speak, Mount Mang suddenly said, how can we do that? Absolutely not. Young Master Yi, if you don't mind, ride me. I can do it. With that said, he returned to his true form. Mount Mang's true form was that of a wolf, but he was different from the huge wolf. His entire body was purplish black, and his body was covered in pitch black scales. In terms of aura, he was hundreds of miles ahead of the huge wolf. Wolf Monarch. The true Mount Mang's Wolf Monarch. Seeing this scene, Guyu Demon Monarch was somewhat dumbfounded. Mount Mang's actions had exceeded his expectations. Yi Xian was also slightly taken aback. He did not expect Mount Mang to be willing to ride him. This was a demon monarch. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before saying, Mount Mang, this isn't too good, right? Mount Mang hurriedly shook his head. There's nothing bad about it. Young Master Yi, hurry up and get on. We'll bring you to the first-ranked Sky Demon Monarch. Yi Xian did not refuse. He directly sat on Mount Mang's back and asked, Mount Mang, is this Sky Demon Monarch the strongest demon monarch in the Great Desolate Mountain Range? Mount Mang said, he's the strongest among the demon monarchs, but he's not the strongest in the Great Desolate Mountain Range. The strongest in the Great Desolate Mountain Range is that fierce beast. Yi Xian was somewhat curious. Fierce beast? Mount Mang nodded. That fierce beast isn't a demon beast native to our Great Desolate Mountain Range. It's an outsider. It now lives in the deepest part of the Great Desolate Mountain Range, the Heaven-Earth Mountain Range. It rarely appears, so we don't dare provoke it. Yi Xian asked, is it very strong? Mount Mang said in a deep voice, very, very strong. Very strong. Yi Xian looked up into the mountain range's depths, his thoughts unknown. Mount Mang sprinted through the mountain range. His speed could be said to be as fast as lightning, extremely fast. At that moment, Mount Mang entered a mountain range. Just as he entered the mountain range, powerful demon beasts swept over with their spiritual consciousnesses. Mount Mang's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. Young Master Yi is training. Unrelated demon beasts, leave immediately. His voice was like thunder, shaking the mountains. Yi Xian, with Demon Monarch Mang Mountain's furious roar, the surrounding weaker demon beasts immediately retreated. This was Mount Mang. How could ordinary demon beasts dare to defy them? Furthermore, Mount Mang had Demon Monarch Guyu with him. Two demon monarchs were escorting him. Mount Mang transformed into a black beam of light and disappeared into the distance with Yi Xian. Demon Monarch Guyu followed closely behind. On the 9th floor of the prison pagoda, the Door of Calamity sat on the ground with a mocking smile. Is he here to train? He's here to posture, right? In the mountain range, Mount Mang and Demon Monarch Guyu led Yi Xian as they sprinted. Beasts retreated wherever they went. About an hour later, Demon Monarch Mount Mang suddenly stopped. Not far in front of them was a mountain range that stretched on endlessly. Mount Mang said in a deep voice, Young Master Yi, this is the Sky Demon Mountain Range where the Sky Demon Monarch lives. Sky Demon Monarch. Yi Xian looked up at the mountain range. He could sense an extremely powerful aura in the Sky Demon Mountain Range. Sky Demon Monarch? Yi Xian smiled faintly. He dismounted and walked towards the Sky Demon Mountain Range. At that moment, Demon Monarch Guyu suddenly said, Young Master Yi, be careful. Yi Xian nodded. At that moment, an invisible pressure suddenly came crushing down from the Sky Demon Mountain Range. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks as the pressure grew stronger. At the same time, a voice sounded from the Sky Demon Mountain range. Human? Yi Xian nodded. The voice said again, "Why are you here?" Yi Xian looked up at the Sky Demon Mountain range. "I'm begging for death." Demon Monarch Guyu, Mount Mang. Chapter 1540. Begging for Death. By the side, Demon Monarch Guyu and Demon Monarch Mount Mang were somewhat embarrassed. This young Master Yi was good at everything, except that he liked to posture. As Yi Xian's voice faded, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Yi Xian. The middle-aged man looked to be in his 30s. He was tall and wore a beast-hide robe. He stood there like a mountain and emitted an invisible pressure. Sky Demon Monarch. The leader of the 10 demon monarchs of the Great Desolate Mountain Range. Sky Demon Monarch looked at Yi Xian. "Are you here to seek death?" Yi Xian nodded. "Yes." Sky Demon Monarch sized up Yi Xian. Adversity Constitution. Furthermore, there are 2 bloodline powers suppressed in your body. Yi Xian was somewhat surprised. As expected of the leader of the demon monarchs. He was not simple. Sky Demon Monarch suddenly looked at Guyu and Mount Mang. "What makes me even more curious is that the 2 of them are actually with a human like you." Mount Mang said, "In the Nether River Star Field, humans and demons are one family." Guyu, Yi Xian, Sky Demon Monarch looked at Mount Mang and gave him a thumbs up. "You're awesome." Mount Mang fell silent. He knew that Sky Demon Monarch looked down on him. But he didn't care. If flattery could give him that much purple aura, he was willing to become a flatterer. Purple aura. The purple aura was enough to change his and Demon Monarch Guyu's fate. This was because the purple aura could allow them to break through their bloodline shackles, allowing them to surpass their ancestors and reach new heights. Such an opportunity was hard to come by in 100,000 years. Furthermore, was flattery shameful? From his point of view, it was not embarrassing. Some demons didn't even have the chance to flatter young Master Yi. At that moment, Sky Demon Monarch looked at Yi Xian. "Are you here to challenge me?" Yi Xian nodded. "Yes." Sky Demon Monarch nodded. "Then I'll do it." With that said, he suddenly punched out. It was pure physical strength. With a single punch, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. In the face of this terrifying punch, Yi Xian showed no sign of fear. He took a step forward and thrust his sword forward. Sword of life and death. He thrust his sword forward. Boom! The power of Celestial Monster King's punch was shattered. At this moment, Celestial Monster King punched again. Rumble. In front of a human demon, a wave of sword light exploded. Then, Yi Xian retreated 1,000 feet, and the Heavenly Demon King also retreated 1,000 feet. After the Celestial Demon King stopped, he looked at his right hand. There was a deep sword mark on his right fist. Seeing this scene, he frowned. He had a corporeal body at the peak of the Eternal Realm. In the entire Great Desolate Mountain Range, his physique was second only to that beast. But now, his body's defenses had been broken by a human in the Tao Attainment Realm. Celestial Demon King looked at Yi Xian in the distance. "Your strike is impressive." Yi Xian smiled and said, "That punch of yours is not bad either." Again. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared on the spot. Chi! A strand of sword light tore through the air. In the distance, the Celestial Demon King narrowed his eyes. He suddenly spread his legs apart, and then he half-squatted and crossed his arms in front of him. Immovable mountain. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground beneath his feet suddenly trembled violently. Then, a mysterious force gathered from the ground like a tide around his body. At this moment, he seemed to be one with the ground. At this moment, Yi Xian's sword slashed down on the Celestial Demon King's arms. Boom! The celestial demon king didn't move at all like a rock, but the ground sank and the mountains shook. The celestial demon king suddenly roared furiously, "Army breaker!" As soon as he finished speaking, he stomped his right foot on the ground and used the power of the earth to punch with his right hand. The momentum of this punch broke the sky and destroyed the sky. Yi Xian's pupils constricted when he saw this punch, and he blocked it with his sword. Boom! Yi Xian was sent flying backward by the punch. He was sent flying hundreds of thousands of feet away. After he stopped, a wisp of blood slowly flowed out of Yi Xian's mouth. What was even more exaggerated was that the space behind him turned pitch black. Although his sword had withstood the punch, the space behind him hadn't. Seeing this scene, Demon Monarch Gu Yu and Demon Monarch Mang's expressions turned serious. In fact, they didn't know how strong the Celestial Demon King was because they hadn't fought the Celestial Demon King before. However, they knew how strong the second-ranked Demon Monarch Helion was, and Demon Monarch Helion had defeated the Celestial Demon King in the past. Now that they saw the Celestial Demon King attack, they realized that the Celestial Demon King's strength was more terrifying than they imagined. In the distance, the Celestial Demon King suddenly said, "Power, come." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked toward Yi Xian. One step was a power. At this moment, the Celestial Demon King used the power of the earth, and the entire earth became one with him. He was the earth. Power of the earth. The power of the earth. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. He held the sword in his right hand and pointed it at the ground. This power of the earth was so familiar. As long as he used the power of the earth, he could instantly dissolve this power of the earth. However, he didn't do that. At this moment, the Celestial Demon King took another step forward. Again. Boom! The mountains and rivers in the entire Great Desolate Mountain Range suddenly trembled. Then, the power in front of Yi Xian skyrocketed. Power of mountains and rivers. Rumble. The area where Yi Xian was directly distorted. And in that area, Yi Xian felt as if tens of thousands of mountains were pressing down on him. He couldn't breathe. Yi Xian's eyes flashed with savagery. He didn't retreat and instead moved forward. His sword domain was activated. Boom! The moment the sword domain appeared, the suffocating feeling was relieved. However, his face instantly turned pale. That power was too strong. Even with the sword domain, it was difficult to block it. At this moment, the Celestial Demon King took another step forward. He clenched his fists and roared, "Power of heaven and earth." Boom! At this moment, the entire world shook violently. Mysterious powers suddenly appeared. These powers were like a flood that gathered towards the area where Yi Xian was in the distance. Power of heaven and earth. Rumble. Yi Xian retreated hundreds of thousands of feet. The moment he stopped, he spat out several mouthfuls of blood essence. The unparalleled sword in his hand was already covered in cracks. Seeing this scene, the expressions of the distant Demon Monarch Gu Yu and Demon Monarch Mang instantly turned serious. The Celestial Demon King's strength was too terrifying. Could young Master Yi block it? The powers didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, they surged towards the Celestial Demon King like a tidal wave. The Celestial Demon King slowly closed his eyes. He clenched his right fist and the powers surged into his right hand. The Celestial Demon King looked at the distant Yi Xian with a savage expression. "Didn't you want to die? Come, I'll help you." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward and smashed his fist forward. Unstoppable. He punched. A fist mark headed straight for Yi Xian. With the appearance of this fist mark, countless mountains in the Great Desolate Mountain Range collapsed inch by inch. Not only the Great Desolate Mountain Range, but the entire world also collapsed inch by inch. With one punch, everything was destroyed. Rivers dried up and mountains collapsed. In the distance, Yi Xian stared intently at the fist mark. This punch gathered the power of the earth, the power of the mountains and rivers, and the power of heaven and earth. In addition to the celestial demon king's own physical strength, it could be said that this punch could really destroy a world. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment of life and death, his mind became extremely clear. Power. Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes. He suddenly realized a problem. The celestial demon king was borrowing power. Borrowing the power of the earth, the power of the mountains and rivers, and the power of heaven and earth. Since the celestial demon king could borrow power, why couldn't he? With that thought, he wanted to borrow power. But on second thought, was the borrowed power his own power? Yi Xian suddenly laughed. I have a sword. Why do I need to borrow power? As he said that, he stabbed with his sword. Sword of life and death. However, it was different from the previous sword of life and death. He was more confident and calm with this sword. Confidence in the sword. Calmness in the face of life and death. A swordsman only needed a sword. As Yi Xian stabbed with his sword, boom! In front of Yi Xian, the fist mark was suddenly stopped by Yi Xian's sword. Then, the fist mark suddenly began to collapse inch by inch and turned into nothingness. And that power was like a wisp of green smoke that dissipated in the world. Seeing this scene, the eyes of the distant celestial demon king were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? On the other side, the eyes of Demon King Mang and Demon King Du were also filled with disbelief. Yi Xian easily broke this punch. That was the punch of the celestial demon king's full power. In the prison pagoda, the door of disaster's expression was very gloomy. In fact, only she knew what was going on. Yi Xian's previous sword of life and death could not be considered a true mortal sword. The previous sword of life and death could at most be considered half immortal. It was still lacking some concept to become immortal. To put it simply, Yi Xian was not confident enough. He did not have enough confidence in his sword of life and death. At that time, his sword Dao faith and confidence were not particularly strong. But now, Yi Xian completely believed in his sword of life and death. This was a qualitative change. Was confidence important? Very, very, very important. Many times, confidence could affect a person's life. It could be said that the current Yi Xian's sword of life and death could be considered to have become immortal. In fact, only she knew that if Yi Xian was a little more confident and did not use the sword of life and death but just casually used it, then Yi Xian had at least a 90% chance of becoming immortal. It was not the sword of life and death, but the entire person. If Yi Xian's entire person became immortal, then his strength would undergo an earth-shattering change. What is mortal? In the cosmos God court, being mortal meant being real. Ordinary swords were real swords. Every strike was a real sword. It truly disregarded cultivation base, defense, realm, divine abilities, laws, rules, and order. It could fight against experts of any realm. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. This was the mortal realm. If Yi Xian really reached this level, it would give her a headache. But fortunately, Yi Xian did not truly become immortal. It was just a sword of life and death. The difference was still very big. The door of calamity slowly closed its eyes. She realized that this shameless guy was growing a little too fast. This was not a good thing. Outside the world prison pagoda, Yi Xian put away his sword. He looked up at the sky and slowly closed his eyes. I really want to be beaten to death. Sky Demon Monarch Mount Mang, Demon Monarch Guyu. P.S. There's an event today. Anyone who leaves a comment in the book reviews section of The Only Sword has a chance of receiving a physical book of Invincible Sword Domain or The Only Sword. Don't praise, just criticism. The kind that points out the flaws of the book and makes me feel ashamed. This kind of chance is the highest. The other kind is to give good suggestions, especially those that point out the flaws and give good suggestions. This kind of chance is even higher. Other comments may also be chosen. It's up to you. Of course, I also know that many readers are silently reading and silently supporting me. I hope that you can also leave a sentence to prove that you have always been here. Especially some old readers of Invincible Sword Domain, I hope that you can come out and let me see you. Most importantly, as long as you leave a comment, you can see your fan level. You can see what level you are. Alliance Master level fans will get a free book and a photo of me. Chapter 1541. He wanted to be beaten to death. By the side, Demon King Gu Yu and Demon King Mang Mountain had odd expressions. Young Master Ye's posturing really left them speechless. Celestial Demon King looked at Yi Xian. Human, I admit you are strong, but don't you think you are too arrogant? Yi Xian looked at Celestial Demon King and smiled. Again? Celestial Demon King shook his head. Yi Xian frowned slightly. As far as I know, you demon beasts will be stronger after returning to your original form. You can return to your original form. Celestial Demon King still shook his head. I am bullying you if I fight you. After all, my realm is much higher than yours. If I return to my original form, even if I win, what's the point? Yi Xian was about to speak when Celestial Demon King continued. Strictly speaking, I have lost to you. Besides, even if I return to my original form, I can't do anything to you with that strike just now. So, let's not fight anymore. At this moment, his heart was very complicated. This human was only at Dao Attainment realm. He was several realms higher than this human and had an eternal realm body. But to be beaten like this, he felt like a failure. If he returned to his original form, he would look down on himself. Seeing that Celestial Demon King didn't want to fight anymore, Yi Xian didn't force him. He cupped his fists. Celestial Demon King, sorry for disturbing you. With that said, he opened his palm and a ball of purple gas floated in front of Celestial Demon King. When Celestial Demon King saw this ball of purple gas, shock flashed in his eyes. This, Yi Xian smiled. Celestial Demon King, this is a small token of my appreciation. I hope you will accept it. Celestial Demon King looked deeply at Yi Xian. Human, this is too precious. Yi Xian smiled. It is precious. That's why I'm giving it to you. This gas should be helpful to you. If you don't mind, please accept it. Celestial Demon King was silent for a moment. Little friend, frankly speaking, I can't refuse this purple gas. But I can't take your purple gas for nothing. Obviously, he wanted Yi Xian to make a request. Yi Xian glanced at Celestial Demon King. Celestial Demon King was very principled. After thinking for a while, Yi Xian said, Heavenly Demon King, how about this? Take this as a good karma. Celestial Demon King naturally understood what Yi Xian meant. He wanted him to owe him a favor. After a moment of silence, the Heavenly Demon King said, Sure. As he spoke, he withdrew the strand of violet energy, and then he said, If you need my help in the future, just send someone here to notify me. I, Heavenly Demon King, will definitely not refuse. Yi Xian smiled and said, Sure. As if thinking of something, he asked, Heavenly Demon King, where is that beast? Berserk beasts. Hearing Yi Xian's words, the expressions of the three demon monarchs changed. Sky Demon King said solemnly, Little friend, it's not good for you to look for it now. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Why? Sky Demon King looked at Yi Xian. If you look for it now, it won't be training but courting death. Yi Xian said solemnly, Is it very strong? Sky Demon King nodded. Very, very strong. I've fought you before, so I have a rough understanding of your strength. With your current strength, it's not good for you to provoke it. Besides, according to what I know, it's cultivating in seclusion now. It's not good to be disturbed at this time. Yi Xian said softly, I see. With that said, he looked at Demon Monarch Mount Mang and Demon Monarch Guyu. Demon Monarchs, thank you for sending me off. We will meet again if fate allows it. Demon Monarch Guyu cupped his fists and said with a smile, Young Master Yi, please come to the Great Desolate Mountain Range to play when you're free in the future. Demon Monarch Mount Mang also cupped his fists. Young Master Yi, take care. Yi Xian smiled. Demon Monarchs, take care. With that said, he turned and left. There were two reasons why he formed a good relationship with these three demon monarchs. First, he, Yi Xian, was here to train, not to make enemies. Having more friends was definitely better than having more enemies. Furthermore, he felt that many experts in the fifth dimension would come to this place in the future. Forming a good relationship here was equivalent to paving the way for the experts in the fifth dimension. At this moment, an angry roar suddenly sounded from behind him. 10,000 beasts, retreat. It was Sky Demon King's voice. As Sky Demon King's voice sounded, countless demon beasts in the endless mountain range in front of Yi Xian retreated like frightened birds. Yi Xian turned to look at where Sky Demon King was and said with a smile, "Thank you." With that said, he quickened his pace. He was going to meet swordsmen. To him, no demon beast in the entire Great Desolate Mountain Range was his match except for that fierce beast. However, he did not plan to find that fierce beast. It was not that he was afraid of death, but that it was in seclusion. It was a little immoral to disturb it at this time. Sky Demon King looked at Yi Xian's disappearing figure and said softly, "Two demon monarchs, do you know where this little friend came from?" Guyu Demon King shook his head, "I don't know the specifics. I only know that his name is Yi Xian and he seems to be from the fifth dimension." Fifth dimension. Sky Demon King said, "So, he is not from our Nether River Star Field?" Guyu Demon King nodded, "Yes." Sky Demon King nodded slightly and said softly, "It is very likely that a big shot brought this junior here to train." Guyu Demon King smiled bitterly, "Isn't that so?" He did not forget that this young Master Yi had a swordsman behind him. Hellion Demon King was killed by that swordsman. Sky Demon King suddenly said, "No matter what, this is a good relationship." Guyu Demon King quickly nodded. At this moment, he was somewhat glad that he did not fight to the death with Yi Xian. If that was the case, he would probably be dead by now. Not to mention obtaining this purple aura. Especially Demon King Mang Mountain, he was at the top previously. If not for Guyu Demon King stopping him, he would have fought to the death with Yi Xian. Thinking of this, Demon King Mang Mountain shook his head. It seemed that he had to change his temper. Be more low-key in the future. Be more humble. At the end of the Great Desolate Mountain Range, Yi Xian was already flying on his sword. At this moment, he was in a good mood. He had gained a lot from this trip to the Great Desolate Mountain Range. Especially the sword of life and death that he comprehended. Now, even if he didn't use any external objects, he could easily kill an Eternal Realm expert. It could be said that compared to when he first came to the Nether River Star Field, his current sword Dao attainments had undergone earth-shattering changes. At this moment, there was a sudden change. Yi Xian suddenly drew his sword and slashed. Boom! The sword slashed down and the space in front of him directly shattered. Boom! A sword beam dispersed, and Yi Xian retreated tens of thousands of feet. Just as Yi Xian stopped, an afterimage suddenly flashed in front of him. Yi Xian's pupils suddenly constricted. He was about to strike, but he was shocked to discover that the unparalleled sword in his hand had shattered. The sword had shattered. Yi Xian was horrified. He took out the Executing Heaven sword and stabbed again. Sword of Life and Death plus Sword Domain. As soon as Yi Xian stabbed, a fist blasted the tip of the Executing Heaven sword. Boom! Yi Xian was instantly sent flying backward. With this flight, he flew hundreds of thousands of feet away. Before he could stop, an afterimage flashed in front of him. Following that, a fist went straight for his head. Under this fist, the space that Yi Xian was in was instantly annihilated. And at this moment, Yi Xian's body cracked inch by inch. At this moment of life and death, Yi Xian suddenly roared, slash. He slashed again. A sword of life and death. Moreover, he even utilized the sword domain. It was his strongest attack. An expanse of sword light descended. Rumble. The expanse of sword light in front of Yi Xian had just descended when it was instantly obliterated, and he retreated explosively for another 30 kilometers. But at this moment, he saw the attacker. It was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man wore a luxurious robe, and he had an extremely robust figure that was more than twice the size of an ordinary person. Moreover, he emanated an extremely ferocious aura. Yi Xian wiped off the blood on the corners of his mouth and gazed at the middle-aged man. You're that ferocious beast. The middle-aged man gazed at Yi Xian. Mortal initiation. Since you were able to take 3 of my punches while at the Dao attainment realm, you should be invincible amongst your peers. Unfortunately, you've only attained mortal initiation. If you've truly attained mortal initiation, then I'm afraid I really wouldn't be able to do anything to you. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. You did it for the violet energy. The middle-aged man remained expressionless. Are you going to hand it over yourself, or do I have to kill you and take it for myself? Yi Xian grinned. I'm begging to be beaten to death. The middle-aged man nodded. You've got guts. I like tough bones like you. Later, I will break all your bones bit by bit, and then erase your soul bit by bit. I hope you can still have guts at that time. As his voice fell, he suddenly punched out. The moment he punched out, Yi Xian was instantly enveloped by a powerful fist aura. Under this fist aura, he felt his heart stop beating. And in his eyes, he saw the world being annihilated bit by bit. The fist aura was overwhelming. It was dozens of times more terrifying than Heavenly Demon King's aura. Previously, Heavenly Demon King's aura was borrowed, but this ferocious beast's aura wasn't borrowed. This was his own aura. This was truly unstoppable. Yi Xian's eyes slowly narrowed. At this moment, he couldn't breathe. He gripped the sword in his hand tightly. His mind was a complete blank. Inside the prison pagoda, the door of adversity stared outside. With Yi Xian's current strength, he definitely couldn't take this punch. This ferocious beast's strength wasn't something that Yi Xian could contend with. This was no longer bullying the weak, this was crushing, a true crushing. This ferocious beast had lived for at least hundreds of thousands of years. Whether it was its realm or physical body, it far surpassed Yi Xian's. If Yi Xian had a true ordinary sword, perhaps he could fight it. Unfortunately, Yi Xian wasn't. As if thinking of something, the door of adversity frowned. This vile beast wouldn't force this shameless guy into an ordinary sword, right? Just as she finished speaking, outside, the sword in Yi Xian's hands suddenly trembled. Sensing this, the door of adversity's expression changed drastically. This shameless guy really wanted to enter an ordinary sword. Without any hesitation, the door of adversity suddenly left the prison pagoda. She directly blocked in front of Yi Xian and punched out. Boom! The ferocious beast's fist force was directly shattered by her punch. After destroying the ferocious beast's fist force with one punch, the door of adversity turned around and slapped Yi Xian. Boom! Yi Xian immediately woke up from that magical state. He looked at the door of adversity blankly. You! What are you doing? The door of adversity blinked and then said seriously, Don't be afraid, I'll protect you. In fact, she really wanted to slap Yi Xian to death with one palm. However, she didn't dare to. Hearing the door of adversity's words, Yi Xian was a little confused. Was this woman crazy? The door of adversity turned to look at the ferocious beast with an extremely cold expression. I hate people who bully the weak the most. Beast, if you're still in front of me in 3 breaths' time, I'll tear you apart. Yi Xian, the ferocious beast. Chapter 1542. She hated the strong bullying the weak the most. Yi Xian's face darkened. Damn it, this woman is bullying the weak, and she's talking about others? However, what was wrong with this woman's brain? Was she crazy? She's helping me. Something's wrong. In truth, Yi Xian didn't know that he'd almost become an ordinary sword cultivator. At that time, he'd only had one thought in his mind. And that was to draw his sword. Even if he died, he had to draw his sword. However, he hadn't expected the door of disaster to suddenly appear. On the other side of the door of disaster, Xiong Shou stared at her. Who are you? The door of disaster narrowed its eyes. My name isn't something a beast like you can know. Xiong Shou shook his head and smiled. In this world, there are always people who think they're infallible and powerful. Little do they know that she's like a frog at the bottom of a well. She doesn't know how big the sky is. As he spoke, he looked at the door of disaster. Arrogance is just an appearance. Its essence is ignorance. Ignorance isn't scary. What's scary is when a fool doesn't know his own ignorance. Yi Xian immediately gave Xiong Shou a thumbs up. Well said. The door of disaster glanced coldly at Yi Xian, and then looked at Xiong Shou. Now I finally understand why this shameless slut can live so comfortably. It's because her enemy is stupid. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly disappeared on the spot. In the distance, Xiong Shou's pupils suddenly shrank. He took a step forward and punched. Boom! A bolt of blood lightning suddenly exploded on Xiong Shou's fist. Rumble. Xiong Shou's entire right hand exploded. At the same time, he retreated several tens of thousands of meters away. As soon as he stopped, a bolt of blood lightning fell straight down from his head. Seeing this, Xiong Shou was horrified. He stomped his right foot, and his entire body became illusory. Boom! The bolt of blood lightning missed, but the mountains below it were directly reduced to powder. Xiong Shou turned around and saw that Xiong Shou was just a few hundred meters away. Xiong Shou's eyes were filled with shock. Who the hell are you? He discovered that his physical body was as fragile as a piece of paper in front of the blood lightning. The gate of adversity slapped out with its palm, and a bolt of blood lightning tore through the battlefield. In the distance, the vicious beast's expression changed dramatically. He suddenly leaped up and punched out with his left hand. Heaven shaking. With a punch, a fist aura instantly swept through the entire world. His fist smashed into the blood lightning, and a powerful force gushed out of his fist like a volcanic eruption. Boom! The bolt of blood lightning trembled violently, but in the next moment, the beast retreated several tens of thousands of feet. The space in front of it and the door of misfortune had been completely annihilated. Not only that, but its entire left arm had exploded as well. Both his arms were gone. The beast's expression was ferocious. He glared at the door of disaster. Who are you? He basically knew all the experts in the Nether River Star Field. It could be said that apart from Li Jueqing, no one in the Nether River Star Field could crush him. The door of disaster looked at the beast coldly. Do you think you're qualified to know who I am? As she spoke, she was about to attack the beast again, but the ferocious beast turned around and fled, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. The door of disaster was about to give chase, but it seemed to have thought of something and stopped. Why did it chase after him? Did it have nothing better to do? The door of disaster turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian said in a low voice, "Why did you help?" He still did not understand. This woman was definitely not that kind. The door of disaster said calmly, "Didn't I say? I hate people who bully the weak." Yi Xian said angrily, "T. You hate people who bully the weak? When you came to attack me, weren't you bullying the weak?" The door of disaster was expressionless. "I hate people who bully the weak, but I don't hate myself for bullying the weak. Is there a problem?" Motherf *Ker. Hearing this, Yi Xian almost went berserk. Damn it, was this something a human could say? The door of disaster clapped its hands and returned to the prison pagoda. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, "Little heir, that white-armored woman was also a protector of the laws. Between you and her, who is stronger?" The door of disaster said, "Don't ask. If you ask, then I'm invincible." Yi Xian was speechless. Inside the prison pagoda, Xiao Ta shook his head. "Little heir, after following the young master for so long, you've learned to be shameless." The door of disaster was speechless. Yi Xian did not dwell on why the door of disaster attacked him. He put away his sword and flew into the distance. On the way, Yi Xian's expression was a little heavy. After the battle with the beast, he realized that he still had many shortcomings. It was not enough to enter the mortal realm with one sword, he needed to enter the mortal realm with his whole body. Soon, Yi Xian left the great desolate mountain range. As soon as he left the great desolate mountain range, he encountered the swordsman. The swordsman looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "You're out?" Yi Xian nodded. "Big brother," at this point, he suddenly stopped. "Big brother?" He was a little confused. He had told the door of disaster that the swordsman was his big brother, but that was not the case. He did not expect that he would call him big brother. This was a little awkward. "Big brother?" The swordsman looked at Yi Xian with a smile that did not seem like a smile. Yi Xian smiled awkwardly. "Calling me senior is a little distant, so in my heart, senior is my big brother." "Senior, you don't mind, right?" The swordsman smiled. "If it was someone else, I would mind. But since it's you, I don't mind. After all, you're quite to my liking. However, this seniority. Forget it. You and I are both swordsmen, why should we care about these customs of the world?" Yi Xian smiled. "Big brother." The swordsman nodded slightly. He looked at Yi Xian. "You have a sword that allowed you to enter the mortal realm." Yi Xian nodded. "I comprehended that sword when I was on the brink of life and death, but I have not entered the mortal realm." The swordsman chuckled. "That's already very good. The current you is only half a step away from entering the mortal realm." Yi Xian asked in a deep voice. "How can I enter the mortal realm?" The swordsman smiled. "Think more, comprehend more, learn more, and fight more." Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then nodded. "I understand." The swordsman continued. "I wanted to accompany you for a while longer, but I encountered something, so I might have to leave first." Hearing the swordsman's words, the door of disaster in the prison pagoda suddenly raised its head, its eyes filled with surprise. But soon, that surprise turned into solemnity. Although Yi Xian had become very strong, he was still no match for her. Therefore, before the swordsman left, it was very likely that he would kill her first. Thinking of this, the door of disaster's expression gradually turned ugly. Outside the prison pagoda, Yi Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the swordsman's words, then said, "Big brother, you're leaving?" The swordsman nodded. "This universe is too weak. It's really boring to stay here. I want to wander around. If I can encounter that universe's law, that would be great." The disaster law, Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said, "Big brother, will we meet again in the future?" The swordsman smiled. "I think we will." Yi Xian smiled. "Then we'll meet again." The swordsman nodded. He glanced at Yi Xian's abdomen. "With this woman's strength, even if you become immortal, you might not be able to resist her. Do you need me to help you kill her?" Inside the prison pagoda, the door of disaster slowly clenched its fists. Outside the prison pagoda, Yi Xian laughed. "Since it's a disaster cause, then let me face it myself." The swordsman glanced at Yi Xian and smiled. "Just as I thought. However, I'll still do you a small favor." He glanced at Yi Xian's abdomen. "Within a year, you can't attack my little brother. After a year, you can attack him. Is there a problem?" Inside the prison pagoda, the door of disaster hurriedly shook its head. "No problem." She knew that the swordsman wanted her to train Yi Xian. However, this was exactly what she wanted. Because this way, she wouldn't have to die. Only by staying alive would she have a future. Outside the prison pagoda, the swordsman suddenly opened his palm. Within Yi Xian's body, something seemed to have disappeared. Yi Xian looked at the swordsman. The swordsman smiled. From now on, you can use both of your bloodlines. In addition, you can also recultivate your body and your sword. Don't worry about anything else. Now that you're half immortal, your thinking has undergone a qualitative change. Even with the power of your bloodline and your body, you won't lose yourself. Saying this, he paused. Whether it's the power of your bloodline or your body, these are all your own powers. However, you can't rely on them too much. Of course, forget about your body and bloodline, you can't even rely on your sword. Yi Xian was puzzled. I can't even rely on my sword? The swordsman smiled. Yes. Yi Xian hurriedly asked. Why? The swordsman smiled. After you enter the mortal world, you'll slowly understand. Saying this, he turned to look at the horizon. Little guy, it's time to part. Saying this, he turned into a sword ray and disappeared into the horizon. Yi Xian looked at the horizon. At this moment, the door of woe suddenly said, "Stop looking. He's already tens of thousands of star sectors away." Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Little heir, how strong is my big brother?" The strength of the three swords had always been a mystery. The door of woe was silent. How strong was that swordsman? She didn't know. Because he only needed one sword to kill her. At this moment, Yi Xian retracted his gaze. He shook his head and smiled. Forget it. I'll just cultivate my body. Saying this, he took out Xiao Ta. Xiao Ta, where's the blood of the horned girl? Xiao Ta was about to speak. At this moment, the door of woe's expression suddenly changed. B*TCH, run. Yi Xian was stunned. What the hell? The door of woe said angrily, idiot, run. A law guardian is tearing through the star sector and rushing here. Yi Xian was confused. Law guardian. No, shouldn't you be happy that a law guardian is rushing here? The door of woe's voice grew louder. Idiot. I can't explain it to you anymore. Run. If you don't run, just wait for your death. The other party isn't like me, where most of my strength was sealed by that swordsman. The other party is in peak condition. Peak condition. Do you understand? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he said, "Can I beat him?" The door of woe roared. Fight your ass. Do you know that beast just now? If it wanted to kill him, it only needed a glance. She's in peak condition. Do you understand? Yi Xian was speechless. The door of woe said angrily, Big brother, your big brother is already far away. You don't have the capital to act tough anymore. Can't you just F***king run? Xiao Ta suddenly said, little misfortune, watch your manners. Manners. The door of woe was furious. You stupid tower. If you talk to me about manners again, I'll die with you. I've had enough of you two weirdos. Yi Xian was speechless. P.S. Yesterday's request for criticism. I've been dealt a blow. Let's change it today. I'm asking for a compliment. One also, there were a few winners yesterday. I left messages for you, but you didn't come to me. Chapter 1543. Run. Yi Xian did not hesitate and immediately flew away on his sword. A law guardian at its peak. He did not forget what kind of existence the door of adversity was at its peak. However, what puzzled him was why the door of adversity was more anxious than him when there was a new law guardian looking for him. Could it be that there was a conflict between the laws of the universe? Without thinking too much, Yi Xian increased his speed to the maximum. At this moment, the door of adversity suddenly said, from the left. Enter that black hole and escape by tearing through space. Yi Xian headed to the left. As if thinking of something, he hurriedly said, Little Yi, your speed is faster. Why don't you do it? The door of adversity coldly said, The reason why that woman has not found this place yet is because she is unable to determine your location. If I come out, she will be able to locate you immediately. Yi Xian said in a low voice, How does she know I am here? The door of adversity was silent for a moment before saying, It should be because I attacked earlier. Yi Xian asked, Is she also from the Universe God Court? The door of adversity said, Yes. Yi Xian was confused. Then shouldn't you be happy? The door of adversity was silent. Yi Xian said again, You have a grudge with her. The door of adversity said indifferently, It's none of your business. Yi Xian was delighted. This woman definitely had a grudge with that law guardian. At this moment, the door of adversity suddenly said, There is a black hole in space ahead. Enter it and use the black hole to teleport. Yi Xian was hesitant. Would this woman trick him? At this moment, Little Ta suddenly said, Little Master, there is a dangerous existence approaching. It is very dangerous. Very dangerous. Yi Xian did not think further and immediately transformed into a sword light and entered the black hole. The moment he entered the black hole, Yi Xian's expression changed. This was because he felt a powerful force tearing his body apart. Yi Xian hurriedly used his sword domain to block the tearing force. Not long after Yi Xian disappeared, a woman suddenly appeared in the sky above the great desolate mountain range. The woman wore a long black dress. The long dress was as black as ink, completely black. The woman looked to be around 18 or 19 years old. Her head of fine black hair was tied up with a black ribbon. She looked very refreshing. Her eyebrows were slightly light, and they went up along with the flow, like two swords standing above her eyes. At the tip of her right hand, a flying dagger was circling around her finger. After the woman appeared, she glanced around and smirked. Is he gone? Interesting. At this point, she seemed to have noticed something and suddenly turned around. In the next moment, she disappeared. In the depths of the great desolate mountain range, the beast that was recuperating suddenly stood up. Just as it stood up, a woman appeared in front of it. The ferocious beast narrowed its eyes when it saw the woman. Who are you? The woman smiled and said, I ask, you answer. The ferocious beast stared at the woman. You are. At this point, the beast's left arm suddenly flew off, and blood spurted out like a pillar. The beast was shocked and looked at the woman in disbelief. You, the woman smiled. Have you seen a woman in a red dress? The beast hurriedly nodded. Yes. She was with a young man. The woman frowned slightly. With a young man? Is that young man an emergency body? The beast nodded. Yes, yes. The woman's frown deepened. She didn't kill that young man? Hearing this, the beast became excited. She didn't kill that young man. Not only did she not kill him, she's even helping him. Helping. The woman blinked. She hurt you because she helped that young man? The beast hurriedly nodded. Yes. The woman chuckled. That's interesting. Could it be that this woman has turned traitor? In the distance, the beast didn't dare to speak again. Being beaten up by 2 women in a day, he had never felt so aggrieved. Right at this moment, the woman turned around and said softly, That woman should have sensed my arrival. That's why she took that young man away. The beast hesitated for a moment and said, Are you going to kill that young man? The woman looked at the beast and smiled. Can't I? The beast hurriedly said, Of course you can. But that woman in the red dress is protecting that young man. The woman smiled. Don't worry. She can't protect that young man. At this point, she seemed to have noticed something and disappeared on the spot. Seeing that the woman had disappeared, the beast immediately heaved a sigh of relief. This woman was too terrifying. He felt that she was even scarier than that hot-tempered woman from before. The beast looked up at the sky and a trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. Am I really that weak? Right at this moment, the space above his head suddenly split open. The next moment, 3 women appeared not far in front of him. They were Mu Niannian and the other 2. They found this place because the swordsman was no longer suppressing Yi Xian's bloodline power. The mysterious woman found this place based on Yi Xian's undying bloodline. But as soon as they found this place, Yi Xian's aura disappeared again. The beast frowned when he saw Mu Niannian and the other 2. Where did they come from? The mysterious woman looked at the beast. Have you seen a young man? The beast was slightly stunned, and then he said, the young man with the calamity body? The 3 women became slightly excited when they heard this. The mysterious woman in the lead hurriedly nodded. Yes. The beast said in a low voice, he was here before, but I don't know where he went now. Nian Nian looked at the mysterious woman. Can you sense his aura? The mysterious woman glanced over, and a moment later, she said in a low voice, I can only sense a little. Moreover, he's getting further and further away from us. It doesn't seem like he's on his way. Nian Nian was about to speak when the beast suddenly said, Are the 3 of you here to kill that young man as well? The 3 women looked at the beast when they heard this. The beast cupped his fists. To tell you the truth, I've already made a move against him before. Unfortunately, I was stopped by a woman. Otherwise, would have blown his head apart. What a pity. The mysterious woman suddenly said, You've made a move against him? The beast hurriedly said, Yes. If that woman hadn't interfered, I would have blown his head apart. Right at this moment, Tu suddenly blasted out with his fist. Mu Niannian slashed out with his sword. The mysterious woman directly charged out. Ah! Not long after, miserable and shrill cries resounded from the depths of the great desolate mountain range. After a long time, the beast's miserable voice suddenly resounded from the depths of the great desolate mountain range. What exactly did I do wrong? On the other side of the clouds, a certain space suddenly split open, and in the next moment, a woman walked out. It was the woman in a black dress. Not far away from the woman in a black dress stood a woman in white armor. The woman in a black dress looked at the woman in white armor and said with a smile, So it's Xian. I never expected that you would be here as well. The woman called Xian said indifferently, Mu Xiaodao, what are you doing here? Mu Xiaodao smiled. Do you believe that I'm here to look for you? Xian was expressionless. Do you want to fight? Mu Xiaodao was about to speak when she suddenly frowned. You deliberately let me discover you. You're stalling for time for that youth. Xian didn't say anything. Mu Xiaodao suddenly shook her head and smiled. I heard that little E is also helping that youth. This is really interesting. Xian frowned slightly. The door of calamity is also helping that youth? That doesn't make sense. Mu Xiaodao suddenly said, Is that law on you? Xian looked at Mu Xiaodao with a calm expression. Do you really want to know? Mu Xiaodao smiled. I was being nosy. Farewell. With that said, she turned around and disappeared into the horizon. She didn't dare ask any further because if the law was really on Xian, then she would definitely die. Although the law of the universe that Xian was guarding was already injured, it wasn't something that she could resist. Seeing Mu Xiaodao leave, Xian said softly, Whether you live or die is up to you. With that said, she turned around and disappeared into the horizon. In a certain spatial black hole, Yi Xian was flying through it on his sword. He didn't know where he was going either. In any case, escaping was the right thing to do. At this moment, the door of calamity suddenly said, To the right, there's a spatial black hole there. You can use that spatial black hole to escape. Yi Xian turned around and glanced at it. He hesitated for a moment, and then he directly rode his sword to the right. It didn't take long for him to leave the black hole and the starry sky. After he left, he glanced at the surroundings. The starry sky around him was silent. It was an unfamiliar star region. And not far in front of him, there was a spatial black hole. This spatial black hole was enormous and occupied half of the starry sky. Any star that came here would be devoured by it. The door of calamity suddenly said, "Go in quickly." Xiao Ta said, "Young master, that dangerous aura is getting closer." Yi Xian chose to believe in Xiao Ta. He didn't hesitate and directly entered the spatial black hole. As soon as he entered, he was directly sucked into the depths of the spatial black hole. Yi Xian hurriedly used his sword domain to block. Yi Xian's expression gradually turned solemn. This was because he realized that the power of the spatial black hole was very strong. His sword domain could only barely block it. This was not the power of dark energy, but a mysterious power. He didn't know what it was exactly. As though he thought of something, Yi Xian asked again, "Little heir, what law's guardian is looking for me?" The door of calamity said coldly, "What law's guardian? You can't even beat it." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Aren't you looking down on me too much?" The door of calamity said angrily, "Can you stop being so arrogant? If not for that swordsman helping you block some of the calamity law's power, you would be dead now." Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "Is Big Brother still helping me block it?" The door of calamity said, "Nonsense. Otherwise, do you think you can survive until now?" However, he has already left. Furthermore, he's getting further and further away. I don't know. At this point, her expression suddenly changed. F***ck. He didn't help you block it. Yi Xian blinked. Really? Just as he finished speaking, some blood-red thread suddenly appeared around him. Upon seeing this, Yi Xian's expression changed. F***ck, little heir, hurry up and think of a way to help me block these calamity laws' power. The door of calamity's face twitched as she said angrily, "I'm the calamity law's guardian, not your guardian. You want me to help you think of a way to deal with the calamity law? Are you kidding me? P.S. I'm late. Oh my god. How exciting." Chapter 1544. Yi Xian came to his senses when he heard the law of misfortune's words. This woman is on the same side as the law of misfortune. At this moment, the surrounding space suddenly trembled. Yi Xian frowned slightly, "What's going on?" The law of misfortune's expression turned ugly. "Damn it, this black hole is going to self-destruct." Yi Xian's expression changed drastically. "Are you kidding me? Can this black hole self-destruct?" The law of misfortune said angrily, "Why can't it self-destruct? After a black hole devours too many stars and matter, its energy will reach a limit, and then it will explode." Yi Xian said solemnly, "Under normal circumstances, how long does it take for such a black hole to explode?" The law of misfortune said, "A few million years, or even longer." Yi Xian's expression was incomparably ugly. "Damn it, in other words, I actually encountered a black hole that only explodes once every few million years?" The law of misfortune fell silent for a moment, and then said, "It has nothing to do with you, it's because of the law of misfortune." The law of misfortune. Yi Xian suddenly came to his senses. "Right, how can I be so unlucky? It's all because of the law of misfortune." In the surroundings, the black hole and the starry sky suddenly began to expand, and the mysterious power seemed to be multiplying. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's expression changed drastically. If this black hole explodes, then not to mention him, even the body of the ferocious beast would be pulverized. At this moment, the law of misfortune suddenly said, "Hurry up and escape." Yi Xian raised his speed to the limit, and at this moment, the law of misfortune said, "It's too late. This black hole will completely explode in at most a dozen breaths of time." Yi Xian, the law of misfortune suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian, and she glared coldly at Yi Xian. "I really want to take you down with me, you bitch." As she spoke, she directly grabbed Yi Xian's shoulder, and in the next moment, she and Yi Xian transformed into a blood-red bolt of lightning and vanished at the end of the starry sky. She naturally did not want to save Yi Xian, but she had no choice but to do so. Only by hiding in Yi Xian's body could she avoid Mu Xiaodao's pursuit. If it was under normal circumstances, she would naturally not be afraid of Mu Xiaodao, but the problem was that she was not normal at the moment. One must know that when the swordsman left, he did not remove the 2 strands of sword she left between her brows. The suppressed her was not Mu Xiaodao's opponent. She had fought with Mu Xiaodao her entire life. If she were to fall into Mu Xiaodao's hands now, it would be a fate worse than death. The moment the door of adversity made its move, Mu Xiaodao, who was in a certain space behind them, suddenly raised her head and looked into the distance. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Has it made its move? Speaking up to this point, she frowned slightly. Logically speaking, this woman should have come to pick a fight with me when she met me. Why did he choose to escape? Could it be that he's injured? As she spoke, her eyes flashed with a strange light, and in the next instant, her entire body turned illusory, entering an unknown starry region. Xiao Er's speed was much faster than Yi Xian's. Under her lead, the 2 of them escaped before the black hole exploded. Just as the 2 of them escaped, the black hole behind them exploded. Boom! In an instant, the starry region that the 2 of them were in began to be annihilated inch by inch. The adversity law did not dare to stay any longer. Grabbing onto Yi Xian's shoulder, they once again disappeared at the end of the starry sky. Behind the 2 of them, the starry sky began to be annihilated bit by bit. The starry sky exploded. Looking at the scene behind him, Yi Xian's heart was filled with shock. Was this the power of nature in the universe? In this vast universe, humans are really insignificant. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian turned to look at Xiao Er. Xiao Er, if we join forces, can we beat that woman? Xiao Er glanced coldly at Yi Xian. That woman plays with knives. More than 100,000 years ago, her knife was already an ordinary knife. Yi Xian blinked and then said, "Pretend I didn't say anything. Let's run." Xiao Er stomped her foot, and a bolt of lightning suddenly exploded under her feet. In the next moment, she and Yi Xian directly disappeared in the deepest part of the starry sky. Yi Xian asked again, "Xiao Er, you guardians of the laws of the universe should also have strong and weak ones. Who is the strongest?" Xiao Er was expressionless. "Me." Yi Xian was speechless. Damn, this Xiao Er is also starting to be shameless. Xiao Er suddenly said, "I can't stay outside anymore. Otherwise, that woman can use my aura to find me. I have to return to the pagoda." Yi Xian nodded, "All right." Xiao Er directly returned to the prison pagoda, while Yi Xian continued to fly on his sword. At this moment, Xiao Er said again, "Running like this is not a solution. Qingcheng, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors above, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as the crown prince shall be removed, and Yi Lang shall take over." The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind him, stood a youth, with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the Yi clan's elders. "Why?" At this moment, a timid voice suddenly rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a hint of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling, and was Yi Xian's biological sister. When she heard that the clan wanted to remove Yi Xian, she ignored her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to the people in the ancestral hall, and said timidly, "Great elder, my brother Yi Xian is the crown prince. Why did you remove him for no reason?" The great elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. "This is a matter of the clan. Why are you interrupting? Leave." Yi Ling was obviously afraid, and did not dare to look at the great elder, but she did not leave. Instead, she plucked up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed again to the elders on both sides. Dear elders, my brother is fighting with the Li clan over the mining rights at Nanshan. He is fighting for the clan, and his life is uncertain. Yet, the clan is using a groundless excuse to remove his crown prince position. This is really unfair. Impudent. The great elder suddenly raged. Whether he is removed or not, it is not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this moment, the new crown prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. You should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The great elder said coldly, then flog 30 times. Soon, 2 guards of the Yi clan rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, this is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years, and even now he is fighting for the clan. The clan is so unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new crown prince Yi Lang, and he knew that this was his chance to show off. The guard sneered, young master Yi Lang inherits the crown prince position, and it is everyone's wish. What are you shouting for? As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly swelled up, but she did not cry. She just held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard, and smiled, what's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed, I'm Jianghu, greeting the crown prince. Yi Lang nodded, you're not bad. After I become the crown prince, I need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on. Hearing this, Jianghu was overjoyed, and hurriedly bowed deeply, I'm willing to go through fire and water for the crown prince. Yi Lang nodded slightly, drag him away. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall, so don't show any mercy. Do you understand? Jianghu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Jianghu seemed to have seen something, and he suddenly stopped. In the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe that was tattered, and there was blood everywhere. This person was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from the South Mountain. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. Inside the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes, and his expression was frighteningly dark. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Jianghu dragging Yi Ling, his expression turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Jianghu saw Yi Xian, his expression changed. He hurriedly looked at Yi Lang, and was about to speak, when Yi Xian suddenly leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Pung! Jianghu felt a wave of dizziness, and he stumbled and fell. However, Yi Ling did not stop there, and charged towards Jianghu once more. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, Yi Xian, he's my man, how dare you? Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Jianghu's chest. Pooh! Jianghu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's expression turned ugly. Yi Xian looked up at him, and snarled, your man? As he spoke, he stepped on Jianghu's face. Jianghu's face turned into a bloody mess, as he screamed, Prince, save me. Yi Xian did not care about Jianghu, as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's appearance, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being cut by a knife. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed out, brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage, and in the next instant, he charged in front of Jianghu, and kicked Jianghu's head. Pung! Qingcheng, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides, there were the Yi clan elders. Why? At this time, a timid voice rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling, and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the clan wanted to remove Yi Xian from his position, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to the people in the ancestral hall, and said timidly, Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is a prince, why did you discard him for no reason? The Great Elder looked at Yi Ling coldly, this is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for? Leave. Yi Ling was obviously afraid, and did not dare to look at the Great Elder, but she did not leave. Instead, she plucked up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides. Elders, my brother is fighting with the Li clan over the mining rights at Nanshan. He is fighting for the clan, and we don't know if he's dead or alive. Yet, the clan is using a groundless excuse to discard his position. This is unfair. Impudent. The Great Elder suddenly raged, whether he discards his position or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time, the new prince, Yi Lang, suddenly laughed, you should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Great Elder replied coldly, then flog her 30 times. Soon, 2 guards of the Yi clan rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists, and said angrily, this is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years, and even now, he is fighting for the clan. The clan is so unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new prince, Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, young Master Yi Lang inherits the title of prince, and it's the wish of everyone. What are you shouting for? As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly swelled up. However, she did not cry, and only held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard, and smiled, what's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed, subordinate Jianghu greets the prince. Yi Lang nodded, you're not bad. After I become the prince, I need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on. Hearing this, Jianghu was overjoyed, and hurriedly bowed deeply. This subordinate is willing to go through fire and water for the prince, even if it means death. Yi Lang nodded slightly, drag him out. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall, don't show mercy, understand? Jianghu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Jianghu seemed to see something, and suddenly stopped. In the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe, and the robe was tattered, and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's lips curled into a sinister smile. Inside the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The Great Elder narrowed his eyes, and his face darkened. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Jianghu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Jianghu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He hurriedly looked at Yi Lang, and just as he was about to speak, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Pung! Jianghu felt a wave of dizziness, and he stumbled and fell. However, Yi Ling did not stop there, and charged towards Jianghu once more. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, Yi Xian, he's my man, how dare you? Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Jianghu's chest. Pooh! Jianghu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly. Yi Xian looked up at him, and snarled, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stepped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess, as he screamed, "Prince, save me." Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu, as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant, he charged in front of Zhang Mu, and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Pung! Chapter 1545. The Nine-Dimensional Universe. Speaking of the nine-dimensional universe, one had to mention a clan. The Undying Emperor clan. In the entire nine-dimensional universe, there was only one super clan, the Undying Emperor clan, known as the #1 clan in the universe. In the entire nine-dimensional universe, other than the nine-dimensional Tendo, the Undying Emperor clan had no natural enemies. This ancient clan had been invincible for millions of years. Even the nine-dimensional Tendo had to give face to this clan. In the Undying Realm. A drop of burning blood essence slowly floated into the Undying Realm. The moment this drop of blood essence entered the Undying Realm, the entire Undying Realm was shocked. Blood Call. This was the supreme secret technique of the Undying clan. Ordinary people did not have the qualifications to learn it. Was it a blood call? At this moment, an old man appeared in front of the drop of blood essence. When he saw it, his expression changed and he said excitedly, "It's the third young lady. The third young lady's bloodline." As he spoke, he escorted the drop of blood essence into the depths of the Undying Realm. The third young lady. Countless experts of the Undying clan were dumbfounded. Who was the third young lady? An old man suddenly said with a trembling voice, "It's the third young lady. It's her." In the past, the Undying clan had two outstanding talents. One of them was the third young lady. The third young lady was very popular in the Undying clan because she was approachable and did not put on any airs. Of course, she was also the most mischievous and often mischievous. Unfortunately, that was a long, long time ago. The young people of the Undying clan did not even know who the third young lady was. The old man escorted the drop of blood essence to the Undying Palace, then slowly retreated. There was only one woman in the Undying Palace. The woman wore a black, tight-fitting robe, and her beautiful hair was tied up high behind her head. Between her brows, there was an air of dignity. This person was the current leader of the Undying clan, Dongli Jing. Looking at the drop of blood essence in front of him, Dongli Jing slowly closed his eyes and said softly, "Third sister, that man's child." His voice was filled with complex emotions. Everyone knew that the Undying Emperor clan was the #1 clan in the universe, but very few people knew that this #1 clan had once faced a crisis. The crisis of almost being exterminated. That man had killed his way from the 6th dimension all the way to the 9th dimension, causing the undead race to tremble in fear. At that time, the patriarch of the Undying race died in battle, more than 30 Heaven Realm experts fell, and several hundred Deity Realm experts were instantly killed. The Undying world collapsed, and not only the Undying world, the entire 9th dimension almost collapsed. Even the Undying Emperor clan's ancestor was unable to stop that man's footsteps. In that battle, the Undying Imperial clan's core bloodline was nearly exterminated. If it wasn't for her third sister, she would have been killed in that battle as well. After a long time, Dongli Jing suddenly opened his eyes. Issue the Undying Order. Tell the elders of the 10 worlds to come see me immediately. Very quickly, within the Undying realm, 10 black tokens soared into the sky, straight into the depths of the starry sky. Once the Immortal Order was out, all the worlds would submit. In less than a quarter of an hour, 10 super powerhouses entered the Undying Great Hall. 6 men and 4 women. Apart from these 10 people, there were 2 more old men in the Undying Hall. They were sitting not far from Dongli Jing. These two were the Undying Clan's supreme elders, Dongli Zhua and Dongli Xing. The two had been in closed-door training for more than 1,000 years, but this time, they had come out early. Dongli Jing opened his palm, and the mysterious woman's drop of blood appeared in his palm. He looked at the crowd. You should already know the specifics. What do you think? Everyone in the hall was silent. What do they think? The Undying Imperial Clan naturally didn't have a good impression of that green-robed man. He was the one who had almost exterminated the Undying Imperial Clan. At this moment, the Supreme Elder Dongli Zhua suddenly said, "That young man has two bloodlines?" Dongli Jing nodded, "Yes." Dongli Zhua frowned. "How is that possible?" Dongli Jing said, "He indeed has two bloodlines." Dongli Zhua said softly, "A miracle." At this moment, Dongli Xing suddenly said, "Third Miss, why did you suddenly come to find us?" Dongli Jing said in a low voice, "That young man is in trouble." Dongli Xing frowned. "That man is here, who dares to cause trouble for him?" Dongli Jing shook his head, "That man isn't here." As she spoke, she glanced at the crowd. "Third sister wants us to lend a hand." Dongli Xing said in a low voice, "He is that man's son." Dongli Jing glanced at Dongli Xing, "But he has the bloodline of our Undying Imperial Clan. Moreover, he is third sister's son." Dongli Xing sighed softly and didn't speak. Dongli Jing glanced at the crowd. "I know that all of you hate that green-robed man, but to be honest, our Undying Imperial Clan doesn't have the strength to take revenge on him. Besides that, that child might be an opportunity for our Undying Imperial Clan." An opportunity. Everyone looked at Dongli Jing when they heard this. Dongli Jing said softly, "Since our ancestor, no one from our Undying Imperial Clan has been able to break through their bloodlines. However, this young man might be able to. If he breaks through his bloodline and brings our Undying Imperial bloodline to a new height, then our entire Undying Imperial Clan will benefit." Hearing this, the expressions of the people in the hall became slightly excited. Why was the Undying Imperial Clan so strong? It was because of their bloodline. But now, their bloodline had become their shackles. Because it had been a very, very long time since anyone had been able to break through their bloodline. If someone was willing to break through their undying bloodline, then the entire clan's bloodline would be able to break through their shackles. Simply speaking, if someone was able to break through the shackles of their undying bloodline, then it would be equivalent to raising the upper limits of the Undying Imperial Clan's bloodline and allowing the Undying Imperial Clan to become even stronger. Meanwhile, someone suddenly asked, "Patriarch, what realm is that young man at?" Dongli Jing spoke softly, "The Dao Formation Realm." The expressions of everyone here instantly became extremely unsightly when they heard this. The Dao Formation Realm. That's too low. Even a sweeper from the Undying Imperial Clan has a higher cultivation realm than that. And now they're inviting him back to be their young master. The Undying Imperial Clan couldn't afford to lose face like that. Meanwhile, Dongli Jing added, "According to Third Sister, he attained mortal attainment in the sword when he was being pursued by a ferocious beast in the Nether River Starfield." Mortal attainment. The expressions of everyone here changed violently when they heard this. Meanwhile, Dongli Zhua suddenly stood up, and his eyes were filled with viciousness. A ferocious beast from the lower plains actually dared to pursue and kill the young master of my Undying Imperial Clan? Guards. As soon as he finished speaking, a guard suddenly appeared here. Dongli Zhua spoke fiercely, "Immediately lead our forces to the Nether River Starfield and slaughter all the ferocious beasts there." "No, let's destroy that star field." The guard bowed slightly, "Yes." As soon as he finished speaking, he was about to turn around and leave. Meanwhile, Dongli Jing spoke abruptly, "Forget it." Dongli Zhua gazed at Dongli Jing, and he spoke softly, "The karma of slaughtering a starfield is too great. Moreover, his true enemy isn't the people of that starfield. It's the Cosmos Divine Court." The Cosmos Divine Court. The expressions of everyone here changed when they heard this. There were very few existences in the boundless universe that the Undying Imperial Clan feared, and the Cosmos Divine Court was one of them. Dongli Jing gazed at them. Are we protecting him or not? Dongli Zhua spoke solemnly. Why is the Cosmos Divine Court targeting him? Dongli Jing gazed at Dongli Zhua. Because he doesn't just possess two bloodlines, he even possesses the Constitution of Calamity. Constitution of Calamity. Everyone in the hall glanced at each other. Protect him. Right at this moment, Dongli Jing spoke abruptly. It has been 800,000 years since anyone from our undying imperial clan has broken through the bloodline shackles. This youth is our chance. Because it's very likely that he's fused the bloodline of our undying imperial clan with the mad demon bloodline. Once they fuse, his undying bloodline will definitely reach new heights. Moreover, this youth has already become immortal at such a young age. In other words, he might become an invincible swordsman like his father in the future. As he spoke, he gazed at Dongli Jing. We must protect him. Dongli Jing said, even if we become enemies with the Cosmos Divine Court? Dongli Jing roared with laughter. So what? We'll just do it. Dongli Jing turned around and glanced at everyone. Do you have any objections? Everyone shook their heads. Dongli Jing suddenly spoke. Men. As soon as he finished speaking, an old man appeared in front of Dongli Jing. Dongli Jing was expressionless, immediately informed the 7th and 8th dimensions. Tell them to drop everything and use all their power to search for our undying imperial clan's young master. After finding him, protect him at all costs. Whichever universe he's in, our undying imperial clan will exterminate that universe. The old man bowed respectfully. Understood. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned illusory. Dongli Jing looked at the elders in the hall. Elders of the 10 worlds, the 10 of you will drop everything and send all the experts of the 10 worlds to the lower realms to search for him. You will go personally. Remember, protect him at all costs. We cannot let him die in the hands of the Cosmos Divine Court. The 10 people bowed. Understood. As soon as they finished speaking, the 10 people disappeared from the hall. Dongli Jing suddenly spoke again. Big Dipper. As soon as he finished speaking, an armored woman appeared in front of Dongli Jing. Dongli Jing looked at the woman. How many undying imperial army soldiers are there in the clan now? The woman was expressionless. 69. Dongli Jing said, immediately recall everyone and personally lead a team to the lower realms to search for the young master. If he's found, the undying imperial army must obey the young master unconditionally. Big Dipper replied, understood. As soon as she finished speaking, she disappeared. Dongli Jing suddenly spoke again. Nanxing. As soon as he finished speaking, a man appeared in front of Dongli Jing. Dongli Jing looked at Nanxing. You are in charge of the intelligence network of our undying imperial clan and the 10,000 worlds. Now, I want you to use all your power to search for him. Remember, he's being chased by the Cosmos Divine Court. He's definitely in a difficult situation. So, you have to be quick, understand? Nanxing said solemnly, I've already ordered all the intelligence network leaders to drop everything they're doing and start searching for the young master. As he said this, he paused. I'll personally make a trip to the Tianji God sect to ask for their help. However, I'm afraid this sect won't offend the Cosmos Divine Court. Dongli Jing stared at Nanxing. Tell the Heavenly Arcanum sect that if anything happens to our undying imperial clan's young master, our undying imperial clan will slaughter the entire Heavenly Arcanum sect. Nanxing bowed slightly. Understood. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. Dongli Jing slowly closed his eyes. According to what I know, he has the disaster body, and is currently being targeted by the disaster law. Elders, immediately activate our undying imperial clan's undying blood formation, and then forcibly block the power of the disaster law. P.S. That's all. However, we'll continue tomorrow. Will it work or not? If it doesn't work, I'll commit seppuku as an apology. Chapter 1546. Somewhere in the starry sky, the mysterious woman withdrew her gaze. Because she sensed that her drop of blood essence had returned to the undying imperial clan. At the side, Mu Nianyan said, "How is it?" The mysterious woman said softly, "I have informed the undying imperial clan. As for what they do, it is up to them." Saying that, she looked into the distance. "Our top priority now is to find him." Saying that, she disappeared into the starry sky. Tu coldly looked into the distance. No one knew what she was thinking. Mu Nianyan said softly, "Miss Tu, our current enemy is the law of disaster and the mysterious force behind her." Tu was silent. Mu Nianyan said again, "Let's go." Saying that, she turned into a sword light and disappeared into the distance. Tu was silent for a moment, then disappeared into the distance. Somewhere in the starry sky, Yi Xian was flying on his sword. Actually, he was a little panicked. Because he sensed a dangerous aura, and that aura was getting stronger and stronger. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian said, "Xiao Air, how far is she from us?" Xiao Air said, "If you stop, she will appear in front of you in 10 breaths of time." 10 breaths of time. Yi Xian's expression became solemn. He only had 10 breaths of time. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly looked into the distance. In the depths of the starry sky, he sensed the aura of life. There was someone. Yi Xian immediately sped up. Not long after Yi Xian disappeared, a woman suddenly appeared in the starry sky. Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao looked into the distance and smiled. "Are you escaping? I love cats catching mice." As soon as she finished speaking, she disappeared. In the distance, Yi Xian had just entered the starry sky with life when a young man suddenly appeared in front of him. The young man shouted angrily, "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the great thousand world? I don't want." The young man's voice stopped abruptly because a sword was pressed against his forehead. Yi Xian looked at the young man. The young man blinked. "Big brother. You've passed." "I didn't see anything." Yi Xian was stunned for a moment before he said angrily, "Are you that spineless?" The young man smiled bitterly and said, "Big brother. I'm just a doorkeeper, and I've just been appointed. Don't make things difficult for me. It wasn't easy for me to get to where I am now." Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment, the gate of adversity suddenly said, "She's coming." Yi Xian's expression changed when he heard this, and he directly transformed into a ray of light that vanished into the distance. The young man instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Xian vanish. He was almost killed on his first day in office. Right at this moment, a woman suddenly appeared soundlessly in front of the young man. The young man's expression changed drastically when he saw this. This woman was Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao raised her head and looked into the distance. A moment later, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. "Has the aura disappeared?" The young man stood to the side, not daring to breathe. Mu Xiaodao suddenly said, "What realm is this?" The young man hurriedly said, "Boundless world." The corner of Mu Xiaodao's mouth lifted slightly. "Let's see how you escape." As soon as she finished speaking, she took a step forward. With this step, her entire body disappeared into the starry sky. In the starry sky, the young man's mind was in a mess. Somewhere in a city, Yi Xian walked among the crowd. This chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page. At this moment, his aura had been completely concealed with the help of Xiao Tan Xiao Air. It could be said that he was now an ordinary person. As long as he did not expose his aura, it was basically impossible for the other party to use their divine sense to find him. After all, Xiao Tan and Xiao Air were not simple characters. Yi Xian looked around. He also did not know what city this was. He only knew that the boundless world was very, very big, bigger than the fifth dimension. He randomly found such a city in the endless boundless world. As long as he did not expose his aura, it was basically impossible for the other party to find him. At this moment, Xiao Air suddenly said, "Remember not to attack. Once you attack, you will immediately expose your aura. Once you expose your aura, with your current distance from her, her flying knife will stab into your head in half a breath. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, then do we continue to hide like this? Xiao Er said, that's the only way for now. Yi Xian walked into the distance. After walking for a while, he suddenly said, Xiao Er, you guys are from the Cosmos God Court. Then, this Cosmos God Court only has the laws of the universe and you guys as the protectors of the laws? Xiao Er sneered, what do you think? Yi Xian frowned slightly, is there anything else? Xiao Er said indifferently, take a guess. Yi Xian, Xiao Er said again, this Mu Xiao Dao came to find you. Do you know what this means? Yi Xian was a little curious, what does it mean? Xiao Er said, it means that another universal law has made a move against you. Yi Xian, at this moment, Xiao Er suddenly said, from now on, you should try to keep a low profile. Because you have a disaster on you, anything you do might bring about bad consequences. Yi Xian nodded, I will try to keep a low profile. As soon as his voice fell, at this moment, his face changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Just as he retreated, a powerful force suddenly blasted in front of him. Rumble. Yi Xian was directly blown away. He did not dare to use his own strength to resist, so he was directly blown away. But fortunately, this force was not particularly strong, so he did not suffer too much. In the ruins, Yi Xian crawled out. He was a little confused. Someone is deliberately targeting me? Yi Xian looked up into the distance. Not far away, there stood a woman. The woman was about 20 years old, wearing a black and red dress. Her hair was tied into long whips. Her whole person looked particularly hot. Opposite the woman, there was also an old man. Yi Xian frowned. Fuck, I don't know these two. At this moment, the woman in the distance suddenly said angrily, Grandfather, Fang Shui will not marry that Lin family's good-for-nothing son. The old man frowned slightly, a little displeased. Girl, go back with me. Fang Shui said coldly, I will not go back with you. The old man was about to speak. At this moment, a young man appeared beside Fang Shui. The young man looked at Fang Shui, smiled, Sister Shui. Fang Shui suddenly said angrily, Lin Su, my name is Fang Shui. I'll tell you today, I, Fang Shui, already have someone I like. I will not marry you. Lin Su said with a smile, Sister Shui, I know, you're deliberately angering me, you don't have anyone you like. Fang Shui glared angrily at Lin Su. At this moment, she glanced at the surroundings, and suddenly pointed at Yi Xian who had just climbed out of the nearby ruins. I'll tell you, I like him. Hearing this, Yi Xian directly jumped up. He was slightly stunned, and he was astonished in his heart, little heir. Fuck, isn't your law of disaster a bit too ridiculous? Is this how you play it? Huh. Within the prison pagoda, little heir's expression was slightly unsightly. She said angrily, who allowed you to watch the show? Let me tell you, in any case, you are not allowed to make a move. This chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page. If you make a move, that woman will stab your head with a flying knife. Yi Xian, at this moment, Fang Shui suddenly ran over to Yi Xian. She directly hugged Yi Xian's arm, and then looked provocatively at the distant Lin Su. Lin Su, I like him. Lin Su's gaze gradually turned gloomy when he witnessed this scene. Fang Shui was his fiancée, yet she was actually hugging a man's arm in broad daylight. Lin Su's eyes were filled with killing intent. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly glanced coldly at Fang Shui. Fuck off. Fuck off. As soon as this voice resounded, everyone here was stunned. Fang Shui was slightly stunned as well. This man told me to fuck off. Yi Xian gazed at Fang Shui. Miss Fang Shui, have you thought about your Fang clan when you did this? Fang Shui stared fixedly at Yi Xian. What do you mean? Yi Xian laughed coldly. What do I mean? I can understand that you don't like Brother Lin, but why did you humiliate Brother Lin? Do you know that your actions earlier aren't just an insult to Brother Lin and his Lin clan, it's an insult to your Fang clan as well? Have you ever thought that your willfulness might cause our clans to become enemies? Feng Shui spoke angrily. Are you trying to teach me how to do things? The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled into a ridiculing smile. Teach you how to do things? Do you think your grandfather and brother Lin can't tell that you randomly picked a man to be your shield on the streets? As he spoke, he gazed at Lin Su. Brother Lin, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but this kind of unruly and willful woman isn't worth it. Lin Su glanced at Yi Xian. You are? Yi Xian walked over to Lin Su and smiled. I'm Yang Xian. People call me Young Master Yang. Yang clan? Lin Su frowned slightly. I don't think I've heard of it. Yi Xian was about to speak when Feng Shui suddenly ran over to Yi Xian and said angrily, You damnable man, you actually dare to say that I'm unruly and willful. Do you not want? Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly said angrily, Stay away from me. As he spoke, he hastily retreated to Lin Su's side, his right hand tightly grabbing onto Lin Su's sleeve. When he looked at Feng Shui, his eyes were filled with disgust, as if he had seen something extremely disgusting. Seeing this scene, everyone was somewhat dumbfounded. As for Feng Shui, she was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Feng Shui glared at Yi Xian, her eyes filled with killing intent. You dare to humiliate me. Yi Xian glanced coldly at Feng Shui. Women, there isn't a single good thing. Men are still the best. As he spoke, he turned to look at Lin Su. The disgust in his eyes instantly turned into a trace of strangeness. Men are still the best. Hearing this, Feng Shui was stunned. Lin Su was stunned as well. Feng Shui looked at Yi Xian. She blinked her eyes. You like men. Yi Xian glared at Feng Shui and said angrily, Can't I? Can't I like men? Don't you know that the opposite sex is only for reproduction, and the same sex is true love? Feng Shui's throat rolled. At this moment, Lin Su, who was beside Yi Xian, quietly pulled back his sleeve that Yi Xian had grabbed. He moved a few steps to the side. He glanced at Yi Xian. Brother Yang, I still have matters to attend to. Farewell. Farewell. After speaking, he turned and left, walking very quickly, and as he walked, he took off his clothes. At the side, Feng Shui glanced at Yi Xian. She hesitated, a trace of apology flashed in her eyes. Sorry, I didn't know you like men. I'm really sorry. Inside the prison pagoda. Xiao Er was silent for a long time. She gave a thumbs up. You really are a goddamn talent. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.